With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
As we hit the halfway mark in 2023 Season 3, the PRL GT3 campaign makes its way to the other track in Belgium. Yes, we've had our fun at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, but now over at Circuit Zolder, it's time to rumble once again for our GT3 doubleheader. Hello everyone, and welcome along to RaceSpotTV. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be back alongside Joey Tebben as we make our way into the second half of the season. And Joey, we were just chatting before we went live, a bit of an interesting one over at Spa with a couple of first lap pile-ups. First lap pile-ups at Circuit Zolder, though, seemed to be a little bit more of a trend than potentially it would have been at Spa.
Yeah, it gets difficult to pile them up at Zolder early on with the, turn one, it's a tight 90-degree corner. It's very, very hard to carry all the speed you want through there. And then by the time you do get to that first tight chicane, the most difficult part in the track, things do tend to have single-filed out. So I don't think we'll be seeing the same drama and carnage that we saw last week at Spa, but we're going to see a whole nother type of challenge, because everybody knows Spa. Most of these drivers can drive Spa in their sleep. They've seen it their whole lives. They've driven it the whole time they've been on iRacing. Zolder has also been on the iRacing service for a very long time. Drivers with GT3 experience know the layout, but a lot of drivers still not experienced at Zolder, whether that's from not wanting to drive it or just the fact that it doesn't show up as often as Spa does.
It sounds like we need to get more days out in more Spa days at Zolder than at Spa. I did see a very interesting TikTok sent to me where people were fooling their partners into going on a Spa day. Different type of Spa. I think we need to do that for Zolder moving forward. Here's how the championship shakes out, though, with 5 rounds in the books, excuse me, heading into the 6th round. Let's not forget that drop rounds play their part, just that one solitary drop inside of the first 9 weeks to lead you into your championship challenge. And it's been a relatively close fight at the top with again, wins being relatively hard to come by after Gary Brown's dominance in the previous season. It is Errol Uruxoy that still leads, but only by 10 points from Greg Doucette, Sully Saad, as well as Steven Martinez and Eric Hulaga, all in the mix in the top 5. Look how close through the top 10 they really are.
And it really looked like at the start of the season that this was going to be Errol Uruxoy's championship to lose, but evidently it is his championship to lose. We saw last week, arguably at fault for the large pileup that happened on lap 1 at Eau Rouge, lost a ton of points there, and his drop week is basically used up with the bad finish from last week, deep into the 20s, 29th place for him. Greg Doucette is kind of a remarkable thing up here in second, has been very, very consistent this season, has had a couple of podiums, hasn't had race-winning speed though. He's become the epitome of what we talk about every season, though. Consistency wins championships, not wrecking wins championships, and Greg Doucette's kind of the all-star of consistency so far.
Yeah, even top 5's relatively hard to come by, but both Uruxoy and Doucette 3 apiece have been able to keep relatively consistent. Of course, in the Drivers' Championship, consistency is rewarded. In the Team Championship, with 3 drivers allowed and only the top 2 scoring points, consistency a little bit more hard to find, but it is Vulture Motorsport South that runs their way forward. Got Throttle Thursday a little bit further behind, SRT Esport Green, and then SGE Esports and the second of the Vulture Motorsports crew round out the top 5. It looks like a big gap, but this early in the season, given how unpredictable it has been, all it takes is for the likes of Matt Dinsmore or for Nicholas Caranges to start having some better luck in the Throttle Thursday machines for that gap to look a whole lot smaller.
Hey, you want to talk about better luck? Matt Dinsmore started on the front row at VIR a couple of weeks ago, was looking for his best result of the season and got taken out at turn 1. So that's already one big haul of points that Throttle Thursday could have had. There could have been a couple more hauls of points in some other races. Throttle Thursday, they're definitely looking forward, while Vulture Motorsports South has had some bad luck over the past couple of races, has had some wrecks. 80 points it's big, but 2 races, it might look much less big.
Exactly, because again, the unpredictability and the fact that we aren't seeing people dominate like Gary Brown did just a couple of weeks ago when he looked back on it is making this season a lot more unpredictable. Cars are out there on track for qualifying. They get 20 minutes and share the track, and so at a tight and twisty circuit like this, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out in the open qualifying session. It's time to thank those that make this possible, though, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. From the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And last but not least, Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And so with that, with more than half the qualifying session already burnt, is it a surprise to see Errol Uruxoy at the top? Well, maybe not. Joey, what is a surprise? It's almost half a second clear of those behind.
He's found some big speed. This kind of reminds me of last week when Ray Dominguez put it on pole at Spa by 0.8 of a second. There's clearly drivers who have figured these tracks out, and there's clearly drivers who still have a little bit more work to do. And whether it's some extra practice this week, whether it's just Errol Uruxoy being intensely comfortable with this Porsche, he's pulled a very, very large gap so far, but still plenty of time left in the session. I think there's definitely time left on the track. Here's one of the SGE Ferraris brings it across the line. Don't think there's going to be much time found there, but half a second looks big. It could come down very, very quickly, though. There's a lot of time and a lot of places where you can carry a ton of speed at this track.
Absolutely. Here's Andre Bernardi in the We Race Esports at number 27. Now the driver just setting up for, it seems, another go in qualifying. Now, they're all on a fixed setup, and it's going to be interesting how the balance of that car tends to be. The Porsche, of course, with the engine over the rear, is going to squat down over some of the bigger curbs and potentially not unsettle itself, all things considered. You can see how busy the track truly is, though. There's not much space from which you can find some clean air.
It's a small track. I mean, it's 1:27 in lap time, so it's not the shortest lap time in the world, but that's because there are a ton of slow corners. There's a ton of very, very tight hairpins and chicanes, so it's a shorter lap than you really think it is. Karanja springs across the line, no improvement for him. Sully Saad very much deeper in the field than you'd want him to be. P3 in the championship, P20 on the grid right now. Eric Kulaga is kind of in a cloud of times there also. If you look from Ray Dominguez down to Eric Kulaga, that's about a 1/10 of a second separating half the top 10.
Yeah, we've had a flurry of fast times. First it was Steven Martinez that jumped up to 4th, but immediately Jeff Carollo jumped up to 2nd. Still, 3.5 tenths off the mark of Urexoy, who's taken his Porsche down to pit lane, trying to get a fresh set of boots and potentially roll out for one final session, rather one final attempt at a couple of laps. The reason why I bring up the fixed setup, Joey, is you can't adjust the fuel. You are limited in, of course, what you can do, and so oftentimes you're burning off the fuel that you've got.
And you're seeing in traffic right now what a lot of these drivers are going to be seeing during the race. Strategy in these races, not necessarily dictated by the tires. There's not a ton of tire fall off in this series, as the races are only 35 minutes long. GT3 tires do tend to be pretty kind. They actually get better over the course of the run in most cases, but fuel is limited. It's not limited by the rules technically, but it is limited by the laws of physics. You can't make it to the end of the race on one tank. It's just not possible. You will have to stop for fuel, and strategy in that way comes from getting out of traffic. Undercuts don't come from tire life. They come from getting clean track while everybody in front of you is stuck in traffic. That's going to be the ultimate juggling act during the race. If you're like Jeff Carollo and stuck in a line of about 3 cars as he is in qualifying, you might want to come down pit lane early.
Can't do that right now in qualifying, though, although Eric Kulaga immediately goes up to 3rd and only 6,000th off the pace of Urexoy. I think strategy here is going to be important. We should also just touch on the fact that this is a rather precarious pit lane. Oh, that was Nicholas Karanjas parked in a precarious place of his own.
Yeah, not ideal there. Very high speed corner. Very easy to lose the rear and spin it at a very awkward place. He's got to do about a 37-point turn here to get it turned around, trying to get no damage and also trying not to back it onto the racing surface. Well done, Nicholas Karanjas. I mean, that's some pretty safe driving. Those tires are going to be very cold and very grassy, though.
Yeah, definitely not the ideal place to be parked. And if you ask why didn't he tow it back, I don't think he would have had time to spin it around and then get a lap under his belt potentially, but maybe also the amount of fuel. That's the incident that set it off. Rather lazy spin of the BMW, and a Porsche goes flying through.
Yeah, that's over at turn 2. Very odd corner in that it feels like it's going to be about 90 degrees, but it's much tighter than that. Through turn 1, that's hard enough carrying all the speed in the world through that 90-degree corner. Then you got to brake here, then throw it into the right, basically right after you're done braking. But with cold tires and a very heavy BMW, you get a little bit too aggressive jerking the throttle or jerking the wheel to the right. Going to have bad time there. But here's Kulaga demonstrating that pit lane. It's another chicane pit entry. We see this at this place, at Motegi, and a few others. It's good to get that one little bit of practice. Yep,
and the other thing to note is just how deep into the pit entry the cones are. You go through the left and the right, and then onto the limiter button, and you're not even actually to the first stall of pits then. Here's Jared Keane, was second a couple of moments ago when we joined the qualifying coverage, but now with Carollo and Kulaga jumping up in front of him, he will get to the line and potentially have one more lap with which to work. When the checkered flies, drivers are allowed to complete the lap that they're on, but Jared Keane going to be the next to practice the pit entry and work his way in towards the lane. It's going to leave then just 9 seconds to go. Waldo Walden to be the final one to come across the line and get a lap time to begin, and after that we'll see where everyone stands in the qualifying order.
Yeah, Waldo really loves to use every second of qualifying. He's there until the checkered flag flies, and then he does one more lap as well, just maximizing his practice, I guess. Christopher Rhines, 24th. He's going to be disappointed with that. We've seen him much higher in other parts of this season. Doucette, P9. Again, lower than he'd want if he wants to fight with Urexoy for this championship. Felix Feliz tends to be a quick driver in qualifying. Sometimes struggles once the race rolls around. But does he have anything here? No, he doesn't. 4/10 slower.
Wonder if anything to do with the conditions that we have. Michael Fowler in a... Is that a new paint scheme? Because I definitely don't remember the Vulture cars looking...
It's a new paint scheme and a new driver.
Yeah, not just new driver. That I did recognize. But even for Martinez in that Ferrari earlier, I saw his paint scheme and I went, I remember the Vulture Motorsports cars looking good, but not that aggressive.
Yeah, they put a big bird on the side.
Okay.
That's a live bird. This is a dead animal on the side of the Team Beef entry now, but it's not actual beef anymore. It's a drawing of an Italian beef. It's a real rainbow cone, though.
So things have changed in the week or so that I was away. I'm glad my eye's not completely tricking me. Angelo Veloce sits in 7th provisionally, but he's got to hope to try and find his way into the top 5. Going to be able to do so as well. Finds, what, 2/10 or 3/10 and jumps to second.
Very big lap for Angelo Veloce. That Ferrari's got some speed. It's no Porsche, but it's certainly got some stuff there. Top 4 different cars. It's Porsche, Ferrari, Audi, Ford. That's not a sentence I expected to say.
Yeah, no, especially with the Fords in there as well. I'll try and show you the logos on the left side of the screen. That's not totally hooked up and working just yet, but I do think that's basically everyone done and dusted for qualifying, and it means that as they wait on the pit lane for the 20 or so seconds to expire, Joey, second half of the season, we reiterate what's the ultimate thing for the championship hopefuls. 1 drop round, but you can only use it in the first 9 weeks that are scored.
You got to make sure you don't have a massive accident and end up in that beautifully rendered Zolder water that we just saw there a couple of moments ago. It's going to be another race of survival here. Lap 1 gets very, very crazy. Drivers get very, very aggressive. We even heard some drivers asking, can everybody take it a little bit easy on lap 1 here, please? They all want to survive. Not all of them will, though.
Everyone asking that typical lap 1 incident. I'm here for the safety rating, it sounds like.
I mean, I think that should be a thing in the PRL. Unfortunately,
Ooh.
I'd be very bad at it because I currently lead another series in incident points, so I'm falling on my own sword.
Oh boy, we're going to touch on that one in a few moments' time. Let's run you down through the starting grid for the second part of our Belgium doubleheader. We made our way over to that other track in Belgium, Circuit Zolder, and Errol Urexo once again has put it on the pole position. Second time this season, and alongside Angelo Veloce and the Ferrari, a quarter of a second off. It's Vulture Motorsports number 52 inside of Eric Hulaga. Also fellow Vulture Motorsports North contender, but one with a paint scheme, one seemingly with something a little bit simpler. Jared Keane and then Ray Dominguez share row number 3, while rolling from 7th spot it will be Steven Martinez in that Vulture Motorsports livery that you will not miss. Andre Bernardi trying to bring some red to the party, it would seem, with Greg Doucette, Michael Kulaga through the top 10. Jochen Bakker and then Michael Fowler, 11th and 12th positions, as we start to see a couple more of the Porsches make their way through into the top 15 or so. Felice, Jones, Dinsmore and Hamilton find themselves about 9/10 off, while Matt Arnold's hoping to cope a little bit better back in 17th, along with Roy Brown in the Team Beef Porsche. Dale Peterson and Nicholas Caranjas make up the rest of your top 20, with Andrew Venaro and Sully Saad just behind you. Livery for Sully Saad as well. Reagan Chandler alongside the fellow Chandler, which is going to be an interesting battle to watch on row number 12. Behind them, Christopher Rhines, Brett Pancari, Chet Miller, and then Jason Bridges. It'll be Glenn Vanko and then Waldo Walden through your top 20, with 2 seconds splitting the front 15 rows. Baron Hilton, Dallas Sullivan, Sean Mulholland, Alan Dice, David Morse, and then Jack Stevenson behind them. Just one more driver to talk about, and he did not set a qualifying time, hoping to stay out of trouble. RaceSpot's own Ewan O'Leary rolls from 37th spot as the field gets stacked up for what is actually going to be a full pacing lap. Plenty of time for them to get some heat into their tires and to get ready to rumble here for the 35 minutes of racing. Weather conditions, well, relatively optimal. As cool as you can get, maximum grip for the tires.
It's beautiful. I love to see it in the double digits. We've had so many races in GT3 and the PRL this season that have been triple digits in Fahrenheit. 120, 110 degree track temp. For once, we're going to have some nice, cool Belgian weather. Not going to be great for cooking the waffles outside, but it's going to be great for the tires. It's going to be great for the drivers. You're going to have grip more than you could ever want here. But even then, that might not be enough.
So as we talked about earlier, pit strategy is going to be so important here, Joey. 35-minute race and the fuel capacity limited so that the drivers are effectively required to come down to the lane. A little bit of saving, though, might mean you need to put less fuel in, might give you some more options with which to work.
And this is a place where you can save a little bit of fuel. It's not the best track for fuel saving in the world because it is. There's not a lot of slow corners. There are a bunch, but there's not necessarily as many as you'd want. You can definitely lift off a little bit early into places like the chicane. There's a second chicane as well, final hairpin, and even the third chicane as well. It's a very chicane-heavy track. You can save fuel here if you want to, but as always, it's the toughest thing to do, to save fuel and keep pace with the drivers in front. If you see a driver like Urexo who's 2/10 faster than the field, you want to save fuel, but you also want to stick with them. One
thing to point out is that there are old pit stalls to the inside, the entry of pit lane, where you fill up fuel like you would at a gas station. We fortunately don't have to use those, but they do in various series that do run here. It is a sight to behold, Joey. Not sure if you've ever seen that.
I think we should use that in iRacing, but this is a sight to behold right here, actually. Look at this, the pace laps through the chicane. You have to be so careful through here, even while pacing. And it's this dicey, going at about 50 miles per hour. It's going to be even more dicey if you end up side by side in the opening laps at full racing speed.
Yeah, we did see on a couple of occasions drivers go single file just to make sure they can survive safely, and now trying to form up a little bit better than they tend to do in American open wheel racing. Still have a couple of corners with which to work. Pace car is going to pull off and away. Before we get to that final corner, it's going to leave Errol Urexoy in full control of the field, and in a race where just 10 points clear of those behind, he's got some gaps to potentially some of his championship rivals, with Greg Doucette in 9th, Sully Sard in 22nd. An important start for him to get away and get clear.
And it's going to be so tough to get that throttle on here through the chicane for the first or the penultimate time. They're going to go single file, and Urexoy probably going to get a huge jump here.
You talk about huge jump. He's 1 second in front of the field as he picks up the throttle, and we go racing for the second half of the PRL GT3 fixed campaign. In towards turn number 1, it's side by side for third on back. David Morse and Sean Mulholland have been off the track behind because of just how early they ended up starting. Look at the separation though at the front, where after the lap 1 drama a week ago, no such qualms for those breaking away.
I mean, that is one thing that helps. When you get a very early start as the leader, that does help the field stratify a little bit. It's not as packed up coming into these first couple of corners. So we haven't seen much trouble other than the back of the field. Angelo Veloz has done a good job of bringing that gap down, making sure he can stick with Urexoy. Carollo and Kulaga still going at it. They're trying to stay in line so they don't lose Veloz.
Don't want to lose too much ground, at least at this point, but I think outside of the moment that I mentioned with Morse and Mulholland, everyone seemingly the chicane safely. Now you can see the back half of the field very much trying to get single filed out. The two Chandlers have swapped around positions, I do believe, with the Mercedes seemingly in front of the BMW, but it's up towards the hairpin now where Errol Urexoy is going to lead. 1 full second clear of Eric Kulaga.
It's a big, big gap here for Urexoy. A second ahead of Veloz, another second ahead of Kulaga. He's comfortable right now, but you can never get too comfortable. Veloz, very, very aggressive. You know he's going to be pushing to bring that gap down. Urexoy, he's a savvy driver by now. He's been in this series for multiple seasons. He knows he's going to have to save fuel in this opening run, but it's still all out right now. Ray Dominguez, especially deep in the field, he's pushing. He's in the grass.
So there's the end of that first lap. You can see the separation. The forward of Kulaga is going to have to be holding on quite strongly with no hint of the draft. Let's go back then and see through a couple of the different moments what happened on that initial race start. Only a couple of things that really pop out on the timing screen. Not really too many movers and shakers, and this is before technically these drivers had even seen the line, and it's the 39 of Mulholland that just goes deep by himself.
It's a big stack up at the back of the field because the leaders were already going. The green flag was out, so technically you can go, but everybody back here still just trying to check up, and Mulholland didn't even get hit. He just didn't make the corner.
Just a bit too committed. Later on, though, we talked about Matt Dinsmore needing some luck.
No.
Is that the commentator's curse?
Probably not. I don't think he got hit. I think it was his own fault, so it may be just the Matt Dinsmore curse, but let's see what happened here. Into the second chicane. Such a tricky sequence of corners. Left, right, left, or right, left, right, rather, and unfortunately, the first left there for Dinsmore spun him around, and then exactly the same thing happens to one of the Team Beef Porsches, Roy Brown.
Yep, so a couple of different moments, but really not much to talk about on the opening lap. Exactly what Errol Urexoy would have been hoping for. Don't think it's what some of the championship hopefuls behind would have been dreaming of, though. You can see inside of the top 10, it's really just the second and third row which are swapped around on either side. And now we settle into the fuel saving rhythms. 2 laps will be complete, and 1.2 seconds between Errol Urexoy and Angelo Veloz. Those two not very much being broken apart just yet. Got to wonder for Kulaga in a Ford that might be a little bit thirstier than some of the machines behind. What's going through his mind?
It's definitely thirsty on fuel, but he looks very, very comfortable right now. He's pulling away from Carollo, and Carollo's got some aggressive drivers behind him. He's got Dominguez and he's got Keane, both of whom have had some great runs so far this season. They've had some great short run speed. I think that's going to be quite the battle between them two, but we're side by side in a Porsche battle here. Fowler versus a race winner earlier this season, Matt Arnold. Arnold makes it work around the outside.
Yeah, Arnold's coping quite well. 4 positions gained so far in this race, now in 13th spot, and hunting down Felix Felice in that number 1 entered car. Oh, more trouble at the back, and it's a stack up. Mulholland and Dice, and I think David Morse as well.
Oh, dearie me. Yep, there goes Dice. Alan Dice, one of our NASCAR Truck Series regulars, actually leads that championship right now. Comes over to the roadside on Tuesdays to get an extra little bite of racing, but Matt Arnold has missed the chicane. He got the position on Fowler on the track, and now he's going to lose it with a slowdown. He's going to let Buck Hamilton get by as well. Jones is going to get by, too. He still hasn't served the slowdown, I don't think.
Yep, the slowdown there is going to be a painful one as well. The only consolation that it wasn't on the opening lap of this one. Down the inside, looks like Arnold's going to at least hold off John Jones, but after bleeding 2 positions, he'll be hoping that the slowdown can at least be resolved before he gets to the line, and Ewan O'Leary, RaceSpot's own, becomes the next one to have something go wrong. And Ray Dominguez as well!
Bad day to be a BMW. They're all falling. They're dropping like flies. Dominguez out of the top 10. We don't even know where he is. He may have just disconnected from the session. Ewan O'Leary, Sean Mulholland, that was a Ferrari, but Alan Dice, it's not a good day to be in a BMW. It's bad luck.
No, Ray Dominguez, that usually when we get disconnections, they present themselves in other ways, but Ray Dominguez, just like that, disappeared from the world, and hopefully will reappear. But I'm not optimistic about that.
I think it's been too long.
Yeah.
I think it's been too long if he is going to reappear. So there was no crash, no nothing, no spin. I think he's been plucked from the corporeal realm.
That is so frustrating. Let's check out, by the way, what happened a lap or so ago, and then try and dial up something with Ray Dominguez. Well, that's not going to give us a great look. We need to spool that up one more time. They enter the shot all right, and then the next time we checked in on them, all was not good, and it's the BMW that's going slow.
Yeah, I think Alan Dice had a little bit of an oopsie himself into turn 1, and then just tries to recover. He's on the racing line. Turn 1 is normal. We didn't really see what happened with Mulholland there. There's what happened to Dice. One of the most easy things to do. Go off at turn 1 and carry a little bit too much speed. Then into turn 1, Mulholland just kind of squeezes him down and takes himself out and away there.
Yeah, not sure exactly what everyone was thinking through that moment, but of course for Alan Dice trying to recover, he will be a little bit worried about his tires and therefore maybe understeering a little bit. Kulaga's dropped a couple of spots, but I don't think this is necessarily the worst thing in the world for the car that does not run number plates and in American-style fashion just uses the custom numbers. Like I said earlier, car's a little bit thirsty on fuel, riding in line, not the worst thing.
It's not the worst thing, but you also really don't want to lose track position around this place. It's so hard to overtake that you might want to save a little bit of fuel, but you might honestly be better off saving fuel in the lead of a train, blocking into the chicanes, lifting off a little bit early. I don't think Kulaga's I don't think it's deliberate to fall back a little bit. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Ray Dominguez disconnecting was related, but since then, I thought he was going to be able to run away from Carollo and Keene, and he's simply lost all of that to them and almost cut turn 1 a couple of moments ago, and now he's feeling the pressure from a teammate.
Yeah, definitely some pressure and building, you'd say, with a third 7.5 off of your race leader. We had seen, by the way, Matt Arnold able to hold off John Jones after he got his slowdown penalty. Well, now John Jones has dropped down the running order, and I think it was not long after we flicked away from them. It's into the penultimate corner, just too much speed, and the Porsche pendulums around on him, and, well, talk about tire temperature, he's got plenty now.
Yeah, it's a very awkward spin there. Just took too much speed into the first half of the chicane. And then, honestly, what may have been the better thing to do here is know you're taking too much speed and kind of bail, but I don't think he realized that until it was a little bit too late. Spun it around, very lucky not to hit anything, but did lose a lot of positions there. We can't forget that John Jones won the first race of this season at Watkins Glen, so we know he's got speed. It's just been, unfortunately, not much consistency for him in one of his first full road seasons here.
No, definitely not. Still, by the way, check back in with Michael Fowler, Buck Hamilton, Matt Arnold, and then 2 seconds to Dale Peterson. You've got the Porsche, sandwiching rather 2 Porsches in a Ferrari battle there. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit tired right now, but I'm really getting woken up by some of this racing at Zolder. It's not typical by any means, and GT3 cars with their lack of downforce here, or rather, lack of clean air running, and therefore the dirty air that they experience, often struggle to make passes, but I guess the opportunities presented with mistakes are why these drivers are able to try and make things happen.
Yeah, that is the one trade-off with Zolder. It's hard to pass, but it's also very easy to make mistakes. So in that way, it is somewhat easy to pass. But unfortunately, it's been a lot of those drivers who have had a lot of speed who have been the ones making mistakes, which is exciting for us. They fall to the back of the train, they try and move their way forward and get aggressive. it's also immensely frustrating that all that hard-earned track position can be lost in 1 millisecond. But look at this dive into the hairpin for the Ferrari of Buck Hamilton. A little bit too aggressive. Fowler's going to switch him back.
But not totally clear just yet as they now cycle up towards that final corner. Look at Arnold going one way, then the other. Going to try and compromise Fowler, and maybe Arnold's going to try and get to the inside of the Ferrari. Almost contact, but they just about hold on to everything. Look at Peterson, Caranges, Venaro have joined the fun. This is the cost of great battling. Cost you time.
Peterson says, thank you very much. You've just checked up 3 drivers, and you've brought me into this battle side by side into turn 1. Doesn't work. Peterson has to back out of that one. And Caranges just riding in line here, hoping that they start going side by side again, because that closed up an absolute universe of a gap for him and Peterson. Suddenly they're in the fight for the top dozen here, P12, and with most likely a couple more mistakes up front, you can guarantee in 25 more minutes of racing we'll see a few more errors. A top 10's possible for every driver in this train right now.
The one thing to consider, though, is the fact that the gaps opening up means that we're not to the point where there are definitely windows for pit stops, but slowly but surely the likes of Urexoy and Veloz will be wondering if they'll be able to drop into some of these pockets that we've got. You can see some drivers that have been struggling have very much fallen away from contention, and Andre Bernardi's going to be the next one. It's around them with some damage from that Porsche flinging around the track. He waits to see the field streak on past.
Don't drive in reverse for too long, Andre. I don't want you to get disqualified here. But he's seeing his relative. He knows there's a full field coming by. He's already going to the back of the field here. Doesn't want to tow because it is a relatively small amount of damage. You don't want to lose 2 minutes, but he's essentially going to lose a full minute there and fall all the way to the back of the field. And that opens up one of those spots in the top 10 I mentioned. Suddenly that whole train we saw from 11th down gets a little bit more important.
Yep, no, absolutely. Mistake so easy to happen here, and it's just a little bit too much of the wheels on the grass and instantly pirouetted around and hard into the wall.
And Felix Feliz is very, very thankful there that he did bounce off a little bit harder from that concrete. He's thankful it was a little bit of a lower speed impact, but it's easy to do when you don't have the full perception of the side of your car necessarily. Take it a little bit too wide, clip a little bit of that grass. You're turning through that little eatsy little bit of a straightaway, so you clip the grass, you're spinning around, no saving it.
I'll just say, that's not something that's the type of mistake you'll just make in the sim. You say lack of awareness of where those left wheels are, but I think a lot of people think that once you get into a cockpit with a Hans device that you're actually able to look around. No. Once you are strapped in, the Hans is effectively covered by the seatbelts. That's what helps provide some of the tightening and the stress, or whatever the technical term would be for that. But you could move your head maybe 5 degrees in either direction to barely glimpse out of the rear view mirror. So especially in the difficult cars with right-hand drive as opposed to left-hand drive, it can be quite difficult. Jared Keane still piles the pressure onto Jeff Carollo, though. These drivers have lost, 2 seconds since we saw Kulaga slip back into further back in line, and potentially Carollo's Audi just struggling a little bit. Keane looking more and more aggressive and trying to get to the inside of turn 1.
He's looking very keen, took a peek, knew he couldn't really do anything into turn 1. He wasn't close enough. You do basically need to be alongside to make a move into turn 1 because it is so high speed. But Keane is stalking, he's hunting, he's letting Carollo know he's there, and Steven Martinez is just kind of the backseat driver here, riding in 3rd in line, in 5th overall, and just hoping that one of these days Keane does send the dive, he does put it alongside with Carollo, and not necessarily that they take each other out, but just that they slow each other up a little bit, open the door. That's how you make a pass at Zolder, and Martinez just has to be very, very patient right now and make sure he doesn't lose touch.
Check back in, by the way, with some of our webcam drivers that we have. Always great to be able to look on board, and there's Brett Punkari in virtual reality, making sure we know exactly which Major League, National Hockey League team he supports in the background. You can see the hands fighting hard as well as he bounces over those curbs. Always great to get a look on board.
And Brett Punkari, Arjuna, you missed last week. He got a podium at Spa. He had his best result ever, so I don't know if that means that you're bad luck for him, because he's a little bit deeper in the field now, but either way, he's riding on that high. He's riding on the high of driving a Viper BMW as well. It's always fun to see Brett Punkari, and also his G29, or whatever wheelbase that is shaking just like mine does.
That is definitely not a G29, but it's also definitely not a Peugeot. It's a Thrustmaster of some kind. I just don't know which.
He's just got to secure it a little bit more, because I can see when he's turning the wheel, he's shaking the whole assembly like my wheel does on my play seat.
I think the cool thing as well, sometimes you can see, I know I did this with my steering wheel. Sometimes you pull it up and down on the quick release mechanism as well. I'm glad to see I'm not the only one that does that. We've got a couple more drivers, of course, that send us their webcams in this fixed series. And so let's go check out the Battle of the Chandlers, where even though Ryan Chandler's racing with a Fanatec McLaren GT3 steering wheel, he's in a Mercedes and trying to work his way on forward.
And he's got Fantech behind him as well, cooling him down. And he's also lucky this week because his doppelganger, his arch rival, 1N Ryan Chandler, made his PRL debut at Spa last week. Not here at Zolder this week. I do hope we see him back, though, because I do like the battle of the Ryan Chandlers. And here's his brother, Reagan Chandler. Both of these guys racing from Virginia, so far away from home here in virtual Belgium, but we've brought them together on the track, and I think this is the first time we've actually seen them battling each other on track in a very long time. They're usually separated a little bit.
Yeah, usually as well. Let's be honest. One of them has some decent luck, the other one has some awful luck. So it's good to see at least that they're
they should take each other out.
Oh, well, is that good luck or bad luck? It depends for who, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I'm here for that as a storyline, for some sibling rivalry. I don't know if Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch ever took each other out, but I'm here for it.
You heard it here first. Joey Tebben is wishing for the misfortune of some of the drivers. Now, of course, always great that we get to look through the webcams. We got a few more, of course, in the GT3 Sprint Series later on. It's that time that maybe we should wonder about what's happening up towards the front. Karanja still works on the back of Michael Fowler, but it's 2 seconds that split Errol Urexoy and Angelo Veloso as we head, well, only 10 minutes or so away from a full cycle of pit stops.
Man, this isn't really the kind of thing that can be solved in pit strategy because there is no traffic in front of Errol Urexoy. He has basically the entirety of Zolder in front of him. The next lapped car is still about a minute and a half away. That's Ewan O'Leary, who's at the back of the field right now. I'm saying that deliberately. He's on his own. He's on a track day. The only thing he can do right now is make 0 mistakes, hope to hold off Angelo Veloso, and he's probably got the race won unless Veloso can find some magical speed here at the end of the race, or somehow he's managed to save 2 seconds of fuel. That's not possible. It's very much in Errol Urexoy's hands right now.
Yes, now 2 seconds of fuel is definitely asking for just that little bit too much. Yes, Ewan O'Leary is at the very back of the field, but I'll give him some racing driver excuses. He just had a rather long week, just flew back home, and it's what, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning for him, so after 2 spins, not 1, 2 spins, he's behind David Morse, so still has someone to fight with.
He doesn't. I don't know if I like Ewan's strategy of not qualifying, but we'll get to that a little bit later, because Michael Kulaga kicking off the pit cycle here. He was one of those drivers in heavy traffic, running behind Buck Hamilton and Matt Arnold. So he's got a reason to come in. He's got a reason to go to the back of the field here and maybe make up some time. He's just got to hope that when he comes out, he doesn't end up coming out basically directly behind that battle with David Morse and Ewan.
I want to just call out something on this pit entry. Notice how he was clear, no one in front of him. You have to brake to go through the corner. You don't brake as early to go into pit lane, and so that is going to very much impact when various people decide to come down to pit lane. By the way, poor Ewan O'Leary. Let's just show this.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ewan O'Leary, I mean, I need a soundboard with that, because we've said that's 2 weeks in a row now. Well, not 2 weeks in a row. He wasn't here for Spa, but whenever his debut was VIR, I'm sure he's already forgotten it. I haven't. It's been Ewan O'Leary both times. And what I was saying is I think he should qualify. I don't think he should be starting at the back of the field here. Because first and foremost, that's 20 minutes of driving he's missing out on.
Yes.
And secondly, he's going to run into trouble at the back of the field because that's where all the checkups happen. If he was just, a little bit further up, racing with people, he might have some better luck.
I feel like the problem is, and I can sympathize as a commentator, especially since you're going to have to commentate on some of these drivers. You don't want to get in trouble too early, and so I can appreciate the hesitancy, if not the result. Buck Hamilton is going to also now dive on towards pit lane to the field. Very much, I think, has been signaled that the window is open. Going to see Michael Fowler head on in as well. Going to be curious who gets the best run through here. Michael Kulaga's pit stop time was about 14 seconds stationary, if you're wondering, just to give you a bit of the count. We saw one of the Chandlers apiece when we cycled through the webcams earlier. Now let's look at both of them.
Wow. Double Chandler show. This is the future, Arjuna. This is...
Well, how many Chandlers do you want?
I mean, we could have 3 next week, and there's many Chandlers in the world. Chandler Smith. Want to check out the PRL? Could get him involved. Maybe get Dylan Coyle to help us get him in.
There we
could
go.
have 4 Chandlers.
Well, so
Chandler feed.
we are somewhat limited in the webcam feeds by my internal network. Not even how many Zoom will send me, but how many I can handle. So I think currently my limit is 10. If anyone wants to help upgrade my apartment building to 10 gigabit internet internally, then we can do 100.
I wonder if they have any other siblings, and if their names also start with R.
You have just broke my brain again. You do this frequently, you know?
I don't know what other names start with R. I mean, they could have a Rachel Chandler if they have a sister. Rarjuna.
Roy. I'm just picking names that are in the session.
Yeah, you're just naming names that are in the field right now. That's how much I thought about that thought.
Yes. By the way, down towards pit lane, we've got Carollo, Keane, and Martinez. This is important, I feel, if you're Eric Kulaga, because after dropping back into line and saving maybe a bit of fuel, now it's hammer time. Now it's go time. You've got to make the most of the clean air you've got.
Qualifying laps for this Ford. We know it can be quick over the course of 1 lap. He had a pole last season, had a win last season, so all the skill in the world that you have at Zolder, you got to take it out in this Ford right now. It's qualifying time. And now we have to remember these pit stop times for all those guys who are down pit lane right now. Jeff Carollo still in the box. It was about 12.7 seconds for Buck Hamilton, 14 seconds for Michael Kulaga. Carollo finishing off the fuel now, 13.6 seconds. Basically in the middle ground here. We're going to see his blend with not Michael Kulaga, but a few others coming up.
So that was Buck Hamilton that we saw out of the final corner. He's not necessarily going to be that close to Kino Martinez. I think the question more becomes, where does he slot into potentially Martinez, Jochen Backer? It is an interesting pit merge, all things considered. Buck Hamilton doesn't have to deal with any of it.
Clean and green here. It's looked like a good lap for Kulaga so far. I haven't seen any mistakes. I haven't seen any slides. So under the pressure here, he's definitely pretty solid. Urexoy into pit lane this time. Veloz follows him in. That might just be an illusion based on the fact that it's slower speeds, but I think Veloz may have made up about a second of time on Urexoy just in braking for pit lane there.
Well, there was a bit of a nervy moment there as a couple of cars dived onto the lane and one did not. Eric Kulaga's going to stay out there and I think going to be joined potentially by someone else. Timing doesn't indicate that. Ford has gone longest of them all, though.
Red flag the race. Where's the rain? Where's the lightning?
No! Let's get. He could do this on strategy. I have faith in Eric Kulaga. Maybe not in the Ford.
Yeah, I don't have faith that he's going to make up the 10-second gap, but the podium is definitely possible, and that would be a great accomplishment for a guy who almost won the championship in this car last season. We're going to see the blend with Urexoy and Veloz in a couple of moments here, but this is the blend with Carollo and Keane. Going to blend out with a few others, Greg Doucette, Felix Feliz maybe even looking at a little bit of a jump. Looks like Carollo should be fairly safe back up into 4th here. Coming out of the pits. Yeah, he's clear.
Oh, and here comes Greg Doucette in that BMW and straight into the battle as well. Look at him emerge alongside with Carollo, who takes the momentum, takes the outside, rips away the spot momentarily. Doucette will now be focused though on Jarrah Keane, who's got the outside line and the speed to clear before turn number 4.
I think Doucette might have been able to stay side by side there, but maybe wanted to back out of it for the sake of his own safety. Didn't necessarily want to run side by side through the chicane. And he's lost the track position because of that. Keane almost clipping the grass coming into the chicane. You've got to be very careful there not to get a little clip of the grass there, because you will be missing the chicane entirely. He hangs on for the moment. Kulaga finally makes it in. The Ford fuel tank is run out. We'll see. Could he take over 3rd here potentially?
So I think the shortest pit stops that we've seen in the 13-second bracket for the most part, but down to about 10 for the Throttle Thursday cars that have taken a bit more of a gamble. Given that Eric Kulaga's been able to go longest of them all, only needs about enough fuel to go 10 more minutes or so once he gets out of pit lane and finishes the lap that he will have his out lap. Maybe he can get down to that 10-second bracket as well. It's not to be able to close to your race leaders. We know they're going to blow past. It's the question about, can he get the slight overcut on the drivers? Still filtering to the line. It's an 11.3 stop for the Ford. But now watch the blend line as he rolls his way around the longer pit exit.
It's a good stop, but it's very, very tricky here. Have to make sure not to get into the wall on the exit there, carrying as much speed as possible. Back onto the racing surface he goes. And he is clear. Eric Kulaga onto the podium by about a second of margin. But Carollo's caught him before. Keane has caught him before. He's got the track position again, but he's got 11 minutes to hold on to it.
And now you have to assume it's push it to the very end, pedal to the metal, and hope that Got enough grip in the tires to hold underneath you. Gaps opened up at the front. Errol Urexor is controlling this race to perfection. Almost 3 seconds now clear of the We Race Ferrari, that number 19 of Angelo Velosan. Looking as calm as you'd like in terms of body language through the middle sector.
And this is a perfect way to come back. You know, he's been the driver at the top of the championship here. After last season, when a bunch of the top drivers and the champion Gary Brown kind of moved up, were scraped off the top of this championship and put into the sprint series, there was a power vacuum. Was it going to be a new driver to come in to win this championship? Was it going to be one of the old guard like Urexoy and Kulaga who were going to come in and win the championship? Urexoy showed race 1. He was the fastest driver in the series. Lost the race on pit strategy, though. Fell out of the lead, lost his chance to win his first race. Next week he came back and did it, and now we're kind of seeing a similar thing here. Last week, embarrassed himself a little bit at Radion, at Spa, wrecked about half the field, and this is the perfect way to come back, dominating like this.
It's a great way to bounce back as well with the second half of the season. Going to see us visit a very different sort of set of tracks, I feel, than some of what we've already seen. Of course, Aragon and VIR are relatively tight, but Watkins Glen, Fuji, and Spa, those are wide, fast tracks. Zolder tight, Road Atlanta tight, Barcelona very tight. Okay, let's ignore the fact that we're going over to the Circuit de la Sarthe to blast down the Mulsanne. We finish at Phillip Island on August the 29th. That is another one of the tracks, much like Zolder, Joey, where a lot of these drivers might not have that much experience.
And that's the only way you can compare Phillip Island to Zolder, because Phillip Island is very pleasant to drive, and I think it's conducive to naturally good racing. Zolder is the exact opposite, but they are very similar in that they're oddballs. They don't show up that often. Phillip Island shows up if you're big into the V8 supercars or just the supercars on iRacing. Those aren't very popular, so I think a lot of drivers are going to be inexperienced there, and that could be an interesting shakeup of the field. And it's the championship finale to make it even more crazy.
I love myself a good old Phillip Island. The problem is, typically most races that I broadcast there, we spend more time trying to figure out what has happened in the past 5 minutes than understanding what's happening right then. So hopefully it's not like that. Still Kulaga, by the way, runs at the front, 1.3 clear in this battle for third. Or I think Jeff Corolla looking behind to the likes of Keen Doucette and Steven Martinez, as once again his Audi not looking the most comfortable, but maybe a bit more comfortable than the Porsche that bounced over the curb on the exit of turn number 2. Is the number 31 of Chet Miller, and almost takes a a Team Beef Porsche with him as well. It's
very, very easy to do. This is why I don't like driving Zolder, because you make one mistake and then suddenly you're in a sea of gravel. I don't even know where they got all that gravel. And then, oh my goodness, I think there was a little bit of contact there with that Team Beef Porsche. It wasn't much, but I definitely heard a little bit of scrape there. I think they got away with it, but that was going to be very, very scary, and also 2 laps down, you and O'Leary avoided it.
He did. By the way, that was, I'm pretty sure, the Team 75 DTM livery that Lauren Heinrich is running in the real world in 2023. So interesting. Just love to see that livery, even if it's not a team livery for this specific series. Got Michael Kulaga getting passed by Nicholas Karan, just an important pass for the Throttle Thursday BMW. We talked about them trying to hunt down Vulture Motorsports in the team championship. It's an 8th position gain for the 311.
It's been a big race for Karangis, and that's interesting that you bring up the DTM, because I'm pretty sure they race at Zolder.
No.
And
no.
Not anymore?
No, Spa took that too.
Darn. But it's such a weird thing that they did race at Zolder maybe a season ago or 2 seasons ago.
Yes,
I remember seeing that. GT3 cars at Zolder does not spell DTM to me. It's still weird how that series has changed.
Yeah, well, DTM in general is not meant to be GT3 anyway, right? So there's a whole lot wrong about it, if we're being completely honest. Although I guess,
but technically this is the PRL DTM series right now.
Fair enough. No, this is valid point.
New series name. Here we go.
Well, I think Andre Bernardi was trying to make his Porsche 911 more of a traditional DTM machine, because I think that was the end blow. You can already see that front splitter had been gone for quite a while.
Well, this looks like the PRL Stadium Super Truck series. Look at this, over the curb, bam! 2 wheels off the ground, 2 wheels off the ground again. You get the rhythm just barely wrong through that chicane, and that's exactly what happens. And it doesn't just send you in the air, it breaks your suspension, and you're lucky, unlike in real life, it won't hurt your spine.
True, yeah, no, that's definitely of concern. Talking with some real drivers of late about the sausage curves and whatnot, yeah, those are definitely a big factor. So for a moment, by the way, that Buck Hamilton had been blinking in and out of existence, and fortunately for him, he was able to have his internet connection stabilize in time. Ray Dominguez was not so lucky. He has retired from this race as a result, as Nicholas Caranja still on the charge, comes up on the bucking Buck Hamilton.
There was a huge flick of oversteer off the hairpin there for Buck Hamilton. Whether he's in the realm of existence or whether he's blinking out of it, he is flinging and wringing the neck of that Ferrari, and Caranja just knows that he's feeling the pressure here. Not able to make the move into the chicane, but once you start overheating the rears of a car like that at a track like this, it's very hard to cool them back down. That's going to be a very good thing for Caranja. It's going to be a good thing for Kulaga, too, as he tries to hunt around the outside in turn 2.
Yeah, nice little fight going on here. Ray Dominguez, by the way, has popped up into the YouTube chat. I don't think he's too happy with how things had been going. We didn't get to see his rather interesting background either this time around, which is a virtual background of his actual route.
It's virtual insanity. We've said this multiple times, and it is that once again. But Dominguez, it's his first season in the PRL. I think things have gone generally well for him. He's got 3 poles out of 6 races. That's a pretty good record. He's got 2 wins out of 6 races. That's a pretty good record as well. Probably not going to be able to win the championship in his first season because of the inconsistency and also because of the technical issues that have struck him tonight, but it's a good first season either way, and once we get to next season, we're going to be looking at him as a championship favorite.
I think so indeed. And of course, after Uptown Gary Brown's, I don't want to say call it like a turnaround by any means, but it was just like the flick of the switch, right? Like he had the speed, but not always the consistency or the luck, and once he figured it all out, boom, 1 season, 6 wins, and now fighting up in that GT3 Sprint Series.
Well, that's why this series exists. It's like the academy. It's where you go to get your feet wet in GT3 competition. It's where you go to show that you are a titan, that you are a winner, that you can compete at a very high level. Not that this isn't a high level in the first place, but there is a second tier that you can jump up to, and that's what we've seen with Michael Terrafino, with Gary Brown, with quite a few others over the course of the years. They've used this series to hone their skills, to turn into a dominant fighting machine, and then move up to continue to do that. And we're starting to see some of these drivers transform into that as well. I think Urexoy will probably be ready to move up next season. Maybe Kulaga as well, if he can move into a car that can actually compete for wins regularly. There's a lot of drivers who have done very well over the past couple of seasons.
I guess this is not just, though, the proving ground. To some, it is a more natural extension of what they want to do, which is follow the iRacing weekly series, which the schedule does, so that they are able to have a full week of racing for iRating, safety rating, and then come and have a league race as well. But sometimes you just want to fix setup and you don't want to be tweaking with all of those different configurations. And so it's always interesting to hear from drivers what they exactly want from the various stages of their sim racing journey. Speaking of Errol Urexoy, by the way, I know we've only got maybe 3 laps to go. But that gap's come down to 2.2 seconds.
Just a little bit. Urexoy about 0.3 slower than Veloz in the previous lap, so it wasn't a great lap from him. Wasn't a bad lap either, though, because he's going to cross the line here to take 2 laps to go. He can afford to be a second slower than Veloz and still win this race, so I think he's okay. I don't think there's any cause for alarm, but at the same time, it is crunch time. It's the final minutes of the race. You're in the lead. You're at a track that has basically no margin for error in a lot of places. That is when mistakes can strike. I think Urexoy's been hardened over the past couple of seasons, though. He's not going to make a mistake on track. Veloz is hoping that it happens, though. It's always possible.
I've seen enough mistakes so far, just not towards the very tippy top. Really starting to get more intense, and you feel it in this battle pack for third. Don't think Kulaga's necessarily the one that I'm too worried about, but Carollo from Keen and even Doucette from Martinez, who's gotten close on a couple of occasions. Feel like there is a chance for this all to very much kick off. 2 to go this time by for your leaders. Who do you think has the most to lose here? I've got to think if you're Greg Doucette. Yes, 6th doesn't sound maybe as good as you would want to try and get more championship points. You know what sounds worse is finishing outside the top 10.
He definitely doesn't want to do that. He is in a decent position right now. With the PRL point system, he'll probably lose about 7 or 8 points to Urexoy, so it's not the worst thing in the world. If he can hang on to this, maybe even fall to 7th, that would still be okay. He'll think this is a good day, but I think Jeff Carollo has a lot to lose here. Not because he's fighting for the championship, not even that he's fighting for the top 10, but this is a fantastic run for him. He has not always been in the top 5 necessarily. I remember the very first race we saw of him in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series about 3 seasons ago now. He was 1 corner away from winning, basically, at Road America. He had a fantastic race. He's always sought to match that again. It's not quite going to be the podium tonight unless he can get by Kulaga somehow, but a 4th place will be a great confidence booster for him.
I think confidence as well is something that at a track like this where you maybe haven't had that much practice, like you say, having the good result maybe even more significant than it would be elsewhere. Karanjis is dropping down. What's going on here? Is this a slowdown? He's out of the top 15 now, and
fuel. Remember, every one of the Throttle Thursday cars, Doucette might be out of fuel as well. All of them were 3 seconds shorter in the box than anybody else. And I don't think that was a strategic decision. I think there may be a problem there. His backer's around as well.
Yeah, well, I think Greg Doucette might still be okay on fuel given that he's been running behind people, but I think you are right for sure with Nicholas Karanjis that it is fuel. He was in 6th gear and coasting as much as he could. You fly as close as you can to the sun, and unfortunately the wings got burned there. At the line, though, with 1 to go, it's Urexoy from Veloz, still 2 seconds the margin.
Doucette's out of fuel as well. That was an error. All of the Throttle Thursday cars were in the pits for 10 seconds. Everybody else in the field was in the pits for 13, 14 seconds. That was not a deliberate strategic move. I think all of them across the team have made a strategic error. They communicated that with each other. They operated on the same strategy, and it all has gone wrong for Throttle Thursday.
I think I heard an engine go boom in the pit lane as well, so I'm hoping it's not one of those Throttle Thursday cars that's coasting. Here's what happened at the chicane, though, as they all find their marks. It's Martinez up the inside of Doucette. And then, Jochen Backer just gets tagged by Matt Arnold, I think.
And there was a huge checkup coming into the chicane. I don't know if that was because Doucette was trying to save fuel, but you can't run side by side through there. It is impossible. It is 1 car wide through there. And there's Matt Dinsmore, the final Throttle Thursday hurdle, out of fuel. That is, whoever thought of that strategy, they're not going to be very popular in the Throttle Thursday Discord server right now.
Well, I guess the good thing is, in the Throttle Thursday camp, is you win as a team, and you lose as a team as well. There's another car going very, very slowly.
Hi, Ewan.
Just meandering towards the line. That's Ewan O'Leary, as Jerry points out. But for Errol Urexoy, it's the mark of the change that we've seen. The championship favorite coming into the season and now continuing to build up the advantage. Errol Urexoy wins for the 2nd time this season and makes his mark at Circuit Zolder. Bit of a wait.
Big day for Veloz as well.
It is. Bit of a wait, though, for 3rd on back as they now come to the line with Kulaga just in front of them.
Big day for Kulaga. Back on the podium in that Ford. That's a great thing for him. Has had some bad luck this season. We've been rooting for that Ford to come back to good results this season. Good for him to be on the podium. Maybe at one of those crazy tracks later on in the season, maybe Le Mans, we could see that Ford be even more successful.
Curious what Le Mans is going to be with a fixed setup, given that you don't necessarily have the drivers building in the compromise of downforce and top-end speed. I think ultimately we have definitely seen a bit of a mark in terms of the championship that for Throttle Thursday, not just the team championships likely slipping away, but some valuable points for Doucette, for Dinsmore and Karanjis all falling by the wayside. Those are the gambles that you take sometimes though, Joey. So again, win as a team and lose as a team.
Win as a team and lose as a team, indeed. Unfortunately, it's going to be like sinking in a ship as a team, unfortunately.
Oh, that's
they'll
rough.
be back. It is pretty rough, but they'll be back next week at Barcelona. That's a track where I feel like I've seen some of those BMWs be strong in the past. I feel like that's a track where Greg Doucette could be pretty good. Look at that car graveyard in turn 1. I think everybody was kind of inching it close on fuel, but 3 seconds was a little bit too much, a little bit too close.
Interestingly for Kulaga, remember 11.3 seconds for him, no such concerns on fuel. That sounded like a number where you needed to go long and not short like we did see from the Throttle Thursday camp. Run down the race results, congratulate Urexoy on a 2nd victory of the season, and of course Now building up to that final round where no drop weeks will be on offer, and hopefully he can build up a healthy margin. It's Angelo Velo second, and the final car on the podium, Eric Kulaga, and a way back in the running order. Chased down by fellow Vulture Motorsports North number 52 of Jeff Carollo, while Jared Keane rounds out the top 5 in what's been a very consistent season for him so far in terms of speed. Steven Martinez, Matt Arnold, Felix Felice, Jochen Backer, and then Buck Hamilton make up the rest of your top 10. And with a couple of these drivers double-digit gains, Matt Arnold 10 positions to his name, while Michael Kulaga just misses out on a top 10 in front of Michael Fowler, Sully Saad, and then Dale Peterson and Reagan Chandler winning out in the battle of the Chandlers. But only just 5 seconds behind was Ryan, with Christopher Ryan 17th, Brett Pancari 18th, trying to hunt down just a 10th or so behind at the line, with Jason Bridges and Roy Brown making up the rest of your top 20. It's John Jones, Glenn Vanko, Waldo Walden, and Dallas Sullivan that get within 1 minute of your race leader, while Baron Hilton, Chet Miller, Andrew Venaro, Alan Dyson, Greg Doucette, the final cars left on the leading lap. Nicholas Karangis will be in 30th spot after running out of fuel, as David Morse is in 31st position, also 1 lap down. Matt Dinsmore, 2 laps down, 3 laps down for Ewan O'Leary, and then 7 laps down for Andre Bernardi, the first of the DNFs. Ray Dominguez, unfortunate internet issues for him, drop him out of the contention, while Sean Mulholland and Jack Stevenson round up 37 cars that took to the green flag. It is time for us to make our way down for some post-race coverage. Always great to be able to chat to the drivers and get their opinions after an interesting 35 minutes of racing action. And Joey Tebbins ready to chat with Errol Urexoy.
Indeed I am. Errol Urexoy. What a way to come back. Spa last week didn't go so well. Zolder, you're back on top, triumphing here. Were you looking at this track as a place where you could kind of revive that championship hope and then come back from the bad luck last week?
Yeah. I needed this. I needed this win tonight. I just needed a good finish, but I'm happy to take home the win. I'm thrilled to see the other guys in the top 5. And yeah, I needed it after Spa last week. Spa was pretty bad for me. It was a low point for me.
And this is kind of the start of the funky second half of the season. Zolder, not the most popular track on the service. Barcelona does get run, but it's definitely not the most popular track. Le Mans, Phillip Island. How are you preparing for the second half of the season with some less popular tracks?
They may be less popular to the population at large, but those are tracks that I love. Other than Phillip Island, which I don't know too well, but Le Mans is one of my favorites. Road Atlanta is one of my favorites. Barcelona is one of my favorites as well from Formula One, racing it in Formula One sim. So, I'm feeling pretty good going into this in the last half of the season.
Well, I'm sure that's going to strike some fear into your competitors. Errol Urexoy, championship leader, race winner. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Big win for Urexoy. But third place, Eric Kulaga is here with us as well. I think this is the first time we've talked to you this season, Eric. The Ford's finally back on the podium.
Yes. It's glorious up there, isn't it?
I mean, it is pretty glorious. I can only imagine how glorious it is for you. But the second half of the season, it's all funky tracks. Like I did just say with Errol. Was Zolder an especially strong track for this Ford? Did it suit it at all?
No, I was hanging on for dear life the last half. I hadn't even, in all practice all week, I hadn't even done a full double stint on the tires without spinning. So I was just turn 4, especially Jeff Carollo, man. 4th for him, great run for the team. He was catching me. He would gain like half second on me in that corner every lap, and then I'd pull out in the other places. And I needed that whole cushion just because that one corner I was barely making it through there all race.
Well, Eric, I can tell you that both of us up here in the booth are happy to see the Ford back on the podium, and we'll see you next week, see if you can do it again.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Big man, Eric Kulaga in the big Ford. I did just speak for you, Arjuna, that the Ford made you very, very happy, and you cannot deny that.
There's another Ford that I think I'll enjoy a little bit more when we eventually get it on iRacing, but that might be just a little bit a ways. I tell you what, though, Joey, this race maybe provided a bit more excitement and drama than I think both of us were expecting, but Errol Urexoy says he loves the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. I don't know if he loves it as much as I do, though, because there are not many tracks in sim racing that I'm starting to get sick of, just by virtue of how many races I commentate on. I can never get bored of a good trip to Road Atlanta. It's up and down. It is a good old Georgia roller coaster.
And it is exceptionally high speed. All you have to do is drive one lap of this place, drive into turn 1, scare yourself to death. That is the Road Atlanta way. It can be tough to pass at times, but it is very, very high speed. And I think that could reward the likes of Ray Dominguez maybe to come back on top after his success at places like Spa. Things are definitely going to get shaken up next week. Or they won't. Or Errol will go on a tear at the end of the season. You never know.
You're just setting it up so that Errol can repeat the exploits of Gary Brown last season. It was a rather remarkable run, all things considered. Again, second half of the season, a bit more mismatch, though, in terms of the tracks. Of course, Zolder, as well as Road Atlanta, Phillip Island, and Barcelona. Yes, a little bit more tight, maybe harder to make effective passes. In stark contrast with that penultimate round of the season, and the final round, Joey, that can be dropped in the championship equation.
I'm just curious how many laps that's actually going to be at Le Mans. Because we got a
35 minutes.
35-minute race in this series, 40-minute race in the big series.
4-minute laps-ish, somewhere in that bracket.
Yeah, so that's going to be a short race.
10 laps, I think.
That's going to be that's not even going to be a pit window. That's going to be a pit peephole.
Yes, that is a pit lap, effectively. We may see some able to go 1 lap longer. Don't necessarily that's going to be the norm. The other thing just to point out is that we go to Barcelona historic, so we get rid of that awful chicane that someone thought was a good idea to add, 20 years ago, and instead just blast through a much funner sequence of a double right-hander.
It's going to be a great end of the season. Very, very diverse, and I think this is something we should see many, many times in coming seasons. It's going to be a thing we especially see next season when we're in kind of the off season for racing in the real world. We might see a couple more funky tracks come up, especially at the end of the season once we get into December. I'm hoping we see the Kansas Roval next season.
No.
You never know, though. It's not going to happen. I guarantee you it's not going to happen, but I want it to happen.
You've been trying that one for a while, and unfortunately I don't think anyone is falling for the bill of goods, but you know what we are ready to do? We are ready for the second part of the GT3 doubleheader. Fix setups out the window. It's time to let the drivers get their cars adjusted to their liking. 5 more minutes of racing, but the same hectic activity here at Circuit Zolder. Welcome to the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. It's where, as Joey mentioned, we see drivers promote themselves after graduating from the ranks of the fixed series to be able to bring that speed, to bring some more knowledge into the campaign. The schedule, identical. Not much really for us to talk through here, except to point out half the season is done, Spa being the turning point, and again, it's a second round in Belgium for which we get to rumble on through. Championship standings, though, this is where we get to talk and we get to have some fun. Not 1 tie, but 2 ties. Vincent Trepanier and Carl Modov tied on 208 points. Dominic Olivier, Boris Angel Ovando, 191 points apiece. Our defending champion, Joey, all the way down in 10th position. It's a long, odd chance, if you'd have to say, for Abner Acosta to be able to hold on to his championship.
And we call Abner the tire wizard at times. He's able to do some miraculous things with the tires on the oval side in the PRL. Hasn't quite been the GT3 wizard in this series this season, but that's because he hasn't really had the time to dedicate specifically to road. He was telling me last week that if he really wants to be a true championship contender in one series, he has to dedicate his whole mind to it. Hasn't quite had the chance to do that, but he's definitely got that raw speed, and if he can get that out at some other weeks this season, we'll definitely be seeing him up front a little bit later on. But look at the Titans in the top 6 right now. That's 5 out of the top 6 that have won races this season. No drivers have won multiple races this season, I think. I might be forgetting. I think Carl Modov might have actually won 2. But either way, it's been very, very evenly matched to the top.
I'm checking the points right now because my memory was a little bit frazzled as well. You're right. No one has won multiple races this season.
Yay.
The thing that I'm going to call out, and I'm going to make sure I call out right now. Top 14 in points are all in Porsche 911 GT3Rs. 15th in points, Ted Lowendick in the Ferrari 488. Ethan Bass is behind him in the Ford. Michael Terrafino behind him in a BMW. Sean Dickinson behind him in a Lamborghini. Let's just celebrate those that didn't want to go with the norm earlier this season when the Porsche was definitely the dominant car. It's definitely a little bit more of an equal playing field in terms of BOP nowadays. Talk about the team championship, though, where it's a little bit closer than it is in the fixed series, but Advanced Motorsport and Precision Racing Esports Purple continue to be the 2 to watch at the front. SimCity Racing in third brought strength in numbers into this 2023 Season 3 campaign. It's not really all gone their own way, unfortunately.
Yeah, and those numbers have fallen apart. SimCity Racing 2, also, you know how much you can miss in 2 weeks, Arjuna. SimCity Racing is down to 1 car. Martin Crisp racing on his own now. Arnaud Genet has moved back over to his old home of Unit Sim Sports.
Oh, wow.
It's all it's all come apart a little bit, but SimCity Racing still has one strong team of 3 drivers. They're going to continue fighting for points. Looks like it's going to be a fight for third, though, with PRE Black and with the Unit Sim Sports, now that they have a full lineup again.
Interesting. So it sounds like we're going to have to get some paints adjusted on some new teams now. See how that all works out moving forward as the drivers once again cycle around for a qualifying session. We can take a look through some of the onboard cameras and show you through who we're going to see. Top and bottom on the left-hand side are Nick and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and in order. Nick on the top, Ted on the bottom. They are sandwiching Cave and Norris. They got Vincent Trepanier up in the top fight. You got Kwok Nin and VR alongside with Norris, and then Miguel Angel Fonseca gives us yet another new camera angle.
It's fantastic. He's like a cinematographer. We're seeing every angle of Miguel here.
Only one right now. Oh, there we go.
Oh, well,
he's frozen.
He's gone.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Bad luck, but no background for Ted this week. No Zolder theme. I guess that is fitting. It's an uninspiring track. It's an uninspired background. But yeah, I wish we saw a little bit more. He did Belgian waffles last week. There's more Belgian foods.
I mean, he could have just showed up with the same background as last week, to be fair.
He could have. We could add Belgian chocolate. That's a thing.
Yeah.
We could add some fries and mayonnaise. Big fan of that. There's lots of opportunities.
I would suggest that we should go disturb him. We'll do that on the grid. We'll let Ted survive for the time being without the distraction of 2 RaceSpot commentators in his ear, especially given that we got something interesting at the front. It's our championship contenders, 1 and 2 in points, 1 and 2 on the track as well.
And not quite 1 and 2 in PRL wins. They're still separated by a pesky Nick McLaughlin, who got a bunch of wins in his AM championships and in the Ferrari Challenge. But these two are the titans of GT3 racing in the PRL right now. Vincent Trepanier, Karl Modoff, 40 wins total, I think, or more. They've been the dominant drivers in the championship so far after a little bit of a rocky start. They're most likely going to be the 2 who fight for the championship in the final half here, unless someone like Beckham Jasir, who won last week, can get a little bit more consistent. It's going to be those 2 up top.
I think I tend to agree with you. I also do think that even though this season has been showing that anyone can win, it's that consistency that we've seen from Trepanier and Modoff to be able to insert themselves up towards the front that has seen them slightly build a bit of an advantage. The 17 points to Dominic Olivier as well as Boris Ovando. Both Trepanier and Modoff 2 poles apiece for top 5 so far this season. And between the 2 of them have 4 of the fastest laps as well. So I think just goes to show after that first round where they were maybe slightly slow out of the blocks relative to some of their competitors where they have fared out. There is Beckham Jasir right behind, by the way, in the Fiercely Forward machine. That's often difficult to miss with the yellow and black. Are there any new liveries that I should be aware of as well now, Joey? It sounds like the week that I was away, everything decided to change.
Other than the SimCity Racing ones, I don't think so. Arnaud Gené's back in the regular old Unit Sim Sports car. Martin Crisp is in his own car now, so that looks a little bit different. There's Arnaud in the familiar purple and highlighter yellow, so looks a little bit like his old self.
Oh.
No longer with SimCity Racing 2, so break out your whiteout at home. Put that on your computer screen. You didn't see that. He's with Unit Sim Sports now.
Unfortunately, I don't think my yellow pen tool goes... does it go on top? Does it go on top?
Let's see. Let's break it out.
No, it doesn't go on top.
Has.
So unfortunately, we will live with that for today, and hopefully next week we can get that sorted. Hopefully as well we can understand as to why the team changed. I was very excited to see all the colorful SimCity Racing cars, but I was over with 48 of the world's best sim racers talking to them about how some of their team decisions go, and whether you're at the top of sim racing or just making your way through, well, that's a car that's gone very off the track. I'm not sure who that was. Being comfortable in a team environment, especially when you spend so much time online with them rather than in person, it's so hard to point out how important that is.
You want to have some good teammates. You especially want in this series to have teammates you can bounce off of, because it is an open setup series. Even within a team, there might be drivers running different setups. Michael Diaz going to be very, very mad at a not teammate there. That was Advanced Motorsports' Simon Thiriot going very, very slow through the chicane, and I hope Michael Diaz wasn't on a fast lap there, because it just got scuppered.
Yeah, and the thing is, he wouldn't have missed the Advanced Motorsports car because they are no longer in stealth black. They have broken out their new paint and gone into the light with the white. I think Michael Diaz has bailed on his lap, by the way, and he's going to let potentially some drivers come on through. You got a Ferrari that's got mixed up into this one as well. Lights flash from Diaz after being checked up. It's just, like we said earlier, it's hard to find any space.
I think that's Faraz Nasser in the Ferrari, but he's got to pull off as well. He knows he's not even going to make it to the line at that point. But Tirio, out of the final corner, he is going to get one more lap here. He's not going to have any help of any draft in front of him. But if he can pull off a solid lap here, he could have one more chance to join his teammate Vincent Trepanier in the front row. Fires it into the turn one for the final time. It looks good, but he's got a full lap to go.
So these are the drivers then that are done in qualifying. So Ted Lowendick, no improvement with his final effort. He's going to cycle through turn one and maybe go around and practice a pit entry, as we mentioned slightly earlier. Ted Lowendick doing his best to get in our good books, isn't he, Joey?
I mean, he's not doing his best to get in good results because he's 28th right now, so he might as well win for us. Michael Terrafino, I believe, well, not the top non-Porsche right now. That's Sean Dickinson up in P8, but doing a solid job. Alessandro Torchio put it on the podium in race one at Watkins Glen, but he's going to get taken out across the line by Nico Sanidakis.
Yeah, and the worst part
he would have improved. He would
have improved without that slight slip up, and well, definitely not intentional from Sanidakis. It's just a shame that it ended that way. Dominic Olivier is going to head towards the line. We'll try and get a replay of Sanidakis in the closing stages of the session, but the Porsche finds himself 6/10 off, not necessarily where that 9 would expect to be, only finds himself about another 1/10 of a second, but enough to leapfrog up to 5th.
It's a solid lap there from Dominic. Another race winner this season. Can't forget about that. He's been one of the fray. Fernando Jaquez getting some pit lane entry practice himself. Good stuff to see there. There's a little bit of a party in the pits because Simon Tirio was not able to finish that lap, was not going to improve. Here's what happened to Sanidakis, though. Tried to save it, but, Torchio, bad luck for him. He had to lift there, and that definitely lost him 2/10.
Just a reminder, by the way, RaceSpot.tv/timing2. If you want to follow along with your favorite drivers over the course of the 40-minute race, you'll be able to pick them through and find out their pit stop time. Again, still with the 5 extra minutes, we expect them to head down onto the lane with about 15 minutes left in the race. And then it's all going to be about, hopefully, not running out of fuel this time, Joey.
I hope everybody's been watching the broadcast, but we've seen problems basically all season long. We've seen people running out of fuel. We've seen people underfuel it. It's always easy to do when you're taking risks like that.
Oh, absolutely. I can think back to BMW M-Sim Cup action not once but twice this year where a couple of teams have run out of fuel, and that's at the very top of sim racing, fighting for more than $50,000. These drivers get ready to rumble, though, for the 6th round of the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series and their share of the prize money. Here's Vincent Trepanier alongside with Karl Modoff to get us underway. The Championship 1 and 2, qualifying 1 and 2 as well. Simon Theriault inside of Ryan Pucktel in the SimCity Racing number 2, while Dominic Olivier and then Beckham Jasir make up the 3rd row. So far, all Porsches in the mix. Behind them, starting in 7th spot, Martin Crisp brings some new colours to that 957. He'll have the Lamborghini of Dickinson for company, while Diaz and Malagon, the rest of the top 10. Defending champion Abner Acosta in 11th continues to struggle somewhat in qualifying with his relative lack of preparation. You'll have Alessandro Torchio in the Juncos Hollinger Esports number 73. Nathan Bartley and then Arnaud Genet, 13th and 14th, share row 7. Kevin Simpson in the TR powered by Geeks Energy 606 lines up in the 2nd Lamborghini in the field. Miguel Angel Fonseca, a former AM champion, carries that number 77, while Michael Terrafino and Fernando Yaquez 17th and 18th spots. Diego Morales and then Corey Hoken through the top 20 with Joshua Spears, Matt Scherf and then Faris Nasser and Joseph Carnes completing your top 12 rows. More than a second through the field so far, where Caven Norris and Ryan O'Connor line up alongside one another on row 13. Kwok Nin and Ted Lowendick back in the field with Nick and Ted's excellent adventure linking up just inside of the front 30 cars. Philip Magnon lines up alongside Nick McLaughlin to complete the top 30 with Jay Steffi, the first of the Fords. Alexander Breton alongside him with Nikos Sanidakis, Marc-Andre Deschardin, Justin Delano, and then Noah Anderson completing the front 18 rows and completing those that get ready to go out there onto the track. A couple of names missing, including Ethan Bass in the best of the Fords placed in the championship, but why don't we take the time as we get ready to go for a full pace lap to disturb Nick and Ted's excellent adventure? Joey, should we talk with Ted first?
Sure, why not? Might as well.
I think we got Ted Lowendick in the booth. Ted.
Hi, Ted.
Well, hello. How's it going, guys?
You speak any Dutch?
I do not.
Learned any Dutch in the last couple of weeks? It seems like we've been in Belgium forever.
I can say waffle. That's about it.
I think that is just waffle.
Waffle, was that a thing?
Stroop waffle? Yeah, that is a thing.
I think so.
I think waffle does translate to waffle. I don't know what region of Belgium Zolder is in. I don't know if we'd be speaking Flemish or Walloon here, but either way, where's the background? You had a waffle last week. Did you run out of mix?
Honestly, I didn't know Zolder was in Belgium.
Whoa!
Where did you think it was?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't care that much about it, so it is.
You thought it was in Zelgium.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pharmaceutical drug.
Oof.
Take Zelgium for your heartburn or something.
For your waffle needs.
Evidently.
Ted, I do have to ask,
Yes.
how's the first half of the season been going in Nick and Ted's Excellent Adventures machines? No Joey Tebbin on the side of the car now. Has that been a boon or a curse?
I think we just have a very large skill gap to the rest of the competition, and Joey's face really wasn't the issue. It was just us.
No, it was.
But that's less fun.
Oh, Nick McLaughlin's here too. We got a whole party. Welcome to the booth, Nick. So, you qualified right next to Ted.
I don't want to talk about it.
You guys are together. Together.
Well, we're on different rows.
How adorable. You are on different rows, but I see Nick pulling up here through the chicane. It's tough enough to go side by side through here on the pace laps. It's
Hi, Nick.
It's even more difficult on the pace laps.
Hi, teammate. Let's go on an adventure.
So how does this compare to the perils of Michigan tomorrow night?
Okay, so I was asked this question earlier, but Zolder is like pineapple on pizza. It's not your first choice, it's not your favorite, but if it's the only thing available, you'll eat it reluctantly.
It is my favorite, by the way. So
Is
I refute that characterization.
Pineapple or Zolder?
Pineapple. Zolder sucks. Pineapple's great.
Well,
Okay.
Ted, just be careful about your other half hearing those comments.
So, ironically, we got pizza tonight, and her first choice was to get pineapple on her half, and thankfully the place we were going to order it from is closed on Mondays. So we had to get it from somewhere else, and she doesn't like the pineapple from that place, so it worked out for us.
Well, we'll let you guys go and focus on the racing. Sounds like, fortunately, no pineapple on Ted's pizza. Always good to catch up with those two, but now ready for 40 minutes of racing. The championship favorites on the front row, and instantly Vincent Trepanier picks up the throttle and gets us racing in Belgium. Karl Modov's got to watch out. Simon Terrio's already got around his outside and in towards turn number 1. Could it be Advanced Motorsport 1 and 2? It's going to be a send up the inside, but Modov can't get to the inside and get past and clear. He's going to defend now for all his worth and hope he doesn't drop behind Dominic Olivier, who looks bold around the outside.
It was a much tighter start than in the fixed race earlier, but it was still savvy driving from Vincent Trepanier. He knew his teammate was starting directly behind him. He waited about a second, and there goes Dominic Olivier around at turn 3. Pucktel's involved, and the whole field's going to pile in.
Crucially, though, I think a couple of cars went off the track, and it means Alessandro Torchio got hip-checked into the wall, but I don't think too many others got mixed up. Martin Cripps definitely did, but crucially, I think our championship protagonist up clear at the front, and now Abner Acosta, the defending champion, lose it at the chicane.
That's 2 Precision Racing Esports Porsches in 1 lap. I don't know if that's something to do with the setup, but they have not been having a good time. They're 3 wide on the exit of the chicane, a little bit further back, as I think Arnaud Genet's trying to resolve things back there. But look at Karl Modov trying to think about a dive on Thierry into the hairpin. Too far back, though. Still going to keep him company.
So what a contrast in terms of opening laps. Yes, this time we got the field almost in synchrony, jumping away from the line, but a lot more chaotic, all things considered. And now we'll see at the end of the first lap just how big the gaps are, who exactly has lost out the most. It is still going to be Trepanier and Thierry, though. Advanced Motorsport 1 and 2. Karl Modov in third, and only with Beckham Jasir really in the draft and lurking behind. Look at those numbers on the left, though. Plenty, +5 or more.
The Belgian Christmas tree is lit up, and this is terrible for Precision Racing Esports in the Teams Championship, because the leaders in the Teams Championship are Advanced Motorsports. They're getting the maximum amount of points right now. Precision Racing Esports, they've got 1 car left, and it's in 6th.
I think we can't really dawdle around here, and we've got to basically instantly go and figure out what happened in that replay. And I get the sense we might need a couple of looks at it. I'm not sure if Abner Acosta got mixed up or not, but you said the field's going to get stacked up, and instantly now I'm wondering, was there more than meets the eye to the story? Dominic Olivier, well, he just makes contact with the rear of Beckham Jasir, trying to get up and under, unsettles the car, and well, it could have been a lot worse, I think.
It could have been a lot worse. That was Torchio who came onto the scene and ended up in the inside wall, so we could have piled a lot more cars in. We still did wreck a lot of cars. We ride on board here with the Hunko Salinger Esports Porsche of Tokyo. Sees the smoke, checks up, but the car's coming back down the track, and there was nowhere he could go. Terrible luck for the Mexican Masters Superbike champ Tokyo. Heavily damaged, and I don't know, that's not very good to have that amount of suspension damage, but Acosta hit the curb. That's what spun him around.
Yeah, and it was really innocuous in so many ways, and then fortunately doesn't choose to aggressively pull alongside and get on clear. Let's see if we can grab one more look, by the way, at what happened to Dominic Olivier, and I want to ride, if we can, with Martin Crisp, because I think he would have had a potentially rather interesting look at it. It's going to be hard to find exactly where he is in the mix, because he gets on the outside, and I think he gets clear of the wall. Great car control to lock it down.
It was smart to not get any damage, but did lose a ton of positions, goes all the way to the back of the field. It's a clean car. It's also a very beautiful car. I like the new Martin Crisp liveries broken out with the purple highlights. Look at Beckham just here. He went Stadium Super Trucks mode there. He was on 2 wheels.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. The curb at the chicane as well is one of those ones where you try and hit it as aggressively as you can, but depends on which car you're in as to how aggressively you can really mount it at the front, and you can see that. Yep, if he had an attitude indicator in that car, it would very much be pointing to the blue side up.
If that was a Porsche Cayenne, you may have had a better landing there, but in this thing, that's spine tingling.
35 minutes left in this one. Only 5 minutes complete. See how it goes from here.
I do like the idea of Beckham Jasir being in this lead train, though. You can't count this guy out any time, and he won last week, not necessarily from having the best season. So we'll see if he's able to come back here. I also like Karl Modov in third. He's been very good at saving fuel this season. At times he's gone a little bit over. And honestly, Simon Theriault, I'm thinking about him as well in second in this pack. Hasn't won a race in this series before. Has to beat his teammate to win, but he is in second.
I think he's going to be quite important in the fuel game here, because with Trepanier leading, he doesn't get to punch the hole in the air, but if Simon Theriault doesn't apply as much pressure to the back of the race leader, maybe Trepanier can still save a little bit of fuel and run his pace. The other thing to consider is if Trepanier maybe is a little bit faster than Theriault over the long run, maybe he can pull away and build an advantage, and given how difficult it is to pass here, Karl Modov will struggle to get on through. The thing is going to be, for Vincent Trepanier, Simon Theriault, and Karl Modov, a track like this for the Porsche, I wonder what differences in setup they've really got. I'm assuming they've landed on something pretty similar.
I have to imagine they're running the same setup, because Trepanier has been so strong in this series over the past couple of seasons after, starting as an AM driver many seasons ago, fighting with Nick McLaughlin and a few others for the championships. Now he's very much at the top of the pro level, getting help from drivers like Guy Levesque and others who are involved in advanced motorsports. I think they're probably running the same setup there because they know it's very, very fast. 2 Porsches, probably on 2 different setups here with the Spears or not Spears, rather, that's Kwoknin in the second car, almost side by side through the chicane. Backs out of it very, very smartly, though.
Yeah, but I think for these drivers as well, given that they've already lost 4 seconds to the back of Matt Scherf in 19th spot, can't afford to lose too much time with one another. The fact that we started a bit more in synchrony meant that I think the field not as split up as it was in the fixed series race initially, but with the battling just continuing to build further back in the pack, that's where the separation is definitely starting to be seen. Here's a look, by the way, at the moment for Fernando Yaquez through the final corner. Finds his way through the gravel with no major damage. Curious, though, if for Nick McLaughlin, well, there's going to be more damage. I can guarantee you there was.
Lots and lots of damage into the concrete. Let's see how that happened. There's Ryan O'Connor ahead of him, and a few others under braking, not even under braking, just gets a little bit too far to the left and clips the grass and flings himself into the wall. There's that same thing we talked about earlier, Arjuda, just the edges of the car, you don't always know where they are.
Perception is very, very difficult. I have made these mistakes more often than not, and given that this level of sim racing, you are trying to find every little edge that you can. You often find drivers migrate to a line where all it takes is being 1 pixel wide to make that mistake. Guy Levesque, by the way, does jump into our chat to say a little crafting has gone into the setup. I wonder what magic dampers they've got over there.
I'm just happy to learn that that Guillaume Levesque is watching these streams every night. We haven't heard from him in a while after he dominantly won the first GT3 Sprint Championship we had here on RaceSpotTV. He said, you know what, I'm moving up to an even higher level in sim racing, but it's good to see him back. He formed his craft here, got to the top of the field, did a fantastic run in the GT3 Sprint Series a couple seasons ago, and he's still around with ASR.
Oh yeah, he picked a bad one to be watching today. My English is much struggle, but we're getting through it. 31 minutes to go. We're going to Road Atlanta next week. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more rested and able to get my words out without stumbling so much. I think we're having a couple of cars stumbling over one another into the gravel trap. Ryan O'Connor makes his way back to pit lane, as does Joseph Cardis.
Oh dear. Oh dear. The gravel has been very, very popular here. I mentioned, I don't know where they got all this gravel. I didn't know there was this much gravel in Belgium, but we've made use of every little bit of it. And Ryan O'Connor does oh my goodness, does exactly the same thing that Nick McLaughlin did. Clipped the grass, and poor old Joe Carnes, nowhere to go for him. He was the pins, O'Connor was the bowling ball. We might as well just watch it on board one more time. This is a plane crash. This is terrible. Oof.
Bang. And nasty contact. Again, one of those where you're glad that it's virtual, especially given that the Porsche is a left-hand drive car. That would have been a rather nasty incident, and it once again just goes to show the limit that these drivers are playing with. The margin is not very great, and I think the other thing to note is that the track actually has a bit of asphalt as you enter the braking zone, and then it funnels into grass effectively for an access road. I wonder if some getting a bit caught out by that as well, one of those unique things that you've got to pick up. But that's what these sims are so good for, Jerry. I was talking with Jem Bullock-Bassi quite recently, and he was telling me how much that he uses iRacing to go and learn a lot of the tracks that he hasn't raced before, especially given that he's over in Super Formula now, where, you know, there aren't very many sims out there for some of those tracks, and so the few ones that he has on iRacing, it's great to come and be able to go to Suzuka, Fuji, or whatever, and then he'll find various mods on other platforms to get as little preparation as he can.
Yeah, and Okayama as well, so that's 3 tracks, and I think they race at the Motegi Road Course in Super Formula as well, so that's almost all of them. And I did see in the recent announcement on the forums, iRacing said they're looking to get deeper into Asia, to get more Asian tracks scanned, so could that mean Autopolis in Japan? Could that mean Sportsland Sugo? We have every Japanese track in iRacing. It is possible.
Yeah, you read my mind there with the Sugo one. That would be cool. The thing that Jem did tell me, by the way, which scared me a little bit, was that he made a pass up the inside of 130R in Super Formula. That's not something you're meant to do.
That's very scary. I think he would be very happy if they went to a little bit further west into Asia, into Eurasia, and scanned Istanbul Park, maybe. I think that would make him pretty happy.
Yeah, you know that would make him happy.
There's so many opportunities. I want the Korea International Circuit. I want to bring that one back. I want Bood in India.
No, I was just about to say, both Korea and India's F1 tracks, massively overrated. Not that they weren't fun, but I have plenty of other tracks that I think I'd put up there in the list as well. Istanbul, honestly, Turkey's F1 track with its triple left-hander, and the final sector that when it rains, no one can actually stay on the track. All of that sounds good. It also looks good that Karl Modov is finally starting to get the bit between his teeth. Outside through the hairpin into the final sector, hoping not to get squeezed onto the gravel, and now alongside of Terrio and inside as they head to the braking zone of the final chicane.
This is absolutely incredible. Karl Modov around the outside of the hairpin. That is not something you normally do, but he is sick of running behind Simon Terrio. He is breaking up the Advanced Motorsports party. He's made Vincent Trepanier very happy because instantly he has a 1.6 second lead. But Modov was sick of running in third. He thinks he has enough pace to catch back up to Trepanier. Yeah,
just watch from behind from Trepanier's perspective at the block initially from Terrio to make Modov have to commit that long way around. And I've got to say, credit to both parties there for being able to run door to door and leave each other the room. And you could see that Modov, as they headed into the corner, left that little bit more space initially just to show that I'm really going to send it. Communication was clear between the two, and now 1.6 seconds, yes, the margin between the top two. But maybe with some clean air, can Karl Modov be able to close up towards the front and to challenge Vincent Trepanier, well, in terms of the championship, you'd have to think tied on points halfway through the season. You can't afford any points to slip away now.
Yeah, you cannot. You can lose maybe 1 point. That might be okay, but you can switch that around very easily. If Modov can get the fastest lap, for example, that would help him tie things with Trepanier. Then Trepanier would get the point for pole, and that would give him that 1 extra point again. But Tyrio actually has the fastest lap point right now. He is being a good teammate here, stealing that point from Karl Modov, and that'll be helpful for Trepanier. If he does win this race, it'll be just that little bit of buffer, a little bit ahead. Once we get into the championship finale, every single position is going to matter.
Absolutely, and a finale at Phillip Island as well. I think that's the thing where it's going to be most intriguing. It's very similar to Zolder in terms of it's not easy to pass, but you can have some lobs and you can have a good go at various corners down the hill, for example, into the final sector. There are plenty of chances to make your way on forward. Faris Nasser is going to be a early taker to the pit lane. This does not seem like a normal strategy in a PRL GT3 race. Going to be curious to see how it plays out.
Well, I think he was kind of in a hornet's nest of cars. He was in traffic, so Faris Nasser coming down, one of the Precision Racing Esports drivers, I believe that's Dominic Olivier, Nick McLaughlin coming down as well with that heavy damage. It is an early stop for all these guys, but 15 minutes in, you can make it on fuel to the end. You might as well go off strategy, see if you can get some clean air here and make up some time with all those trains that are still going on around the track.
Okay, no fast repairs, just to make that clear for those that are joining us for the very first time, but opportunity to get some damage maybe fixed on the car and get out of trouble. And like you say, the fact that they have come down means that we are guaranteed that the pit stop window is open. Those drivers should have no issues on fuel. 11.5 seconds about average for them as they circulate back out onto the track. Just noting in the chat that our discussions of, you know, the wants for Super GT, Super Formula and Asian tracks has not gone unnoticed. Andrew Carone says hello, says that would be welcome. GB9 Garage also says it would be nice to get more of the GT3 cars as well. That's why I keep saying, by the way, that let's get rid of the Ford GT that we have right now. We don't need it. We don't want to see it until we get that brand new Ford Mustang.
Maybe. GB9 is Gary Brown, by the way. Couldn't be here. Couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately, but he's here with us in spirit. And yeah, the Mustang would be cool, but as long as we have this Ford, I'm happy to have it. Then when the Mustang does get here, I'm good to change my mind.
I'm just saying, by the way, GB9 Garage, I've clicked on the channel right now. I did not realize that Gary Brown has bought an old Aston Martin DB9 and is working on putting it together. It was a high mileage one. You know, he's doing it all himself. He is the warranty. Oh, I'm going to be the next person to subscribe to that channel and watch the exploits of Gary Brown wrenching on an Aston Martin.
One of these thumbnails one day, because I see this video where he scoped the cylinders.
Yes.
This thumbnail is incredible.
I'm just saying the channel is incredible. So he clearly, if we ever got an Aston Martin GT3 car, there's only one choice for Mr. Brown.
Aston Challenge. Let's do it.
And he's got to run with the 007.
Of course.
Yes.
And iRacing also said they were going to scan more British tracks, as if we didn't have enough, but we could get maybe Goodwood. That would be a great place to have an Aston Martin.
I mean, maybe, it's not a racetrack, though. Goodwood is just
well, the circuit, the historic racetrack.
Yeah, but it's, okay. Everyone, when they say Goodwood, they really mean the hill climb. So I'm glad.
I mean, we get the hill climb as well because we have Mount Washington.
I'm glad that you at least specified it. But the Goodwood track is also relatively uninspiring. Am I allowed to say that without being never invited to Goodwood?
I think what would make it
Festival
inspiring is that it's so unsafe in real life. It's just hay bales.
Right.
But we can do whatever we want in the simulator, so we can put whatever we want on there.
Okay, so we're gonna break out the Aston Martin DB9.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, what else does British GT race on? Did they go to Thruxton? I mean, is that something that happens?
They do a lot of interesting things, but they also, I think they've done around Portimao this year. They went to Spa for sure, so like they do all sorts of things outside of the brands, the Altons, the Snettertons, which are definitely your bread and butter when it comes to GT racing. I don't think they actually go to Thruxton anymore.
I don't think they do. I'm scrolling through the calendars here. Rockingham, we know that lives in Scan World on iRacing. We haven't gotten it yet. I hope that finally happens, and I hope we get Cadwell Park too. That'll be crazy.
I would like the scan for Rockingham to be released at some point. Joshua Spears has dropped down to 15th. I'm not sure if that was slowdown related or not, but outside of the top three who have have changed positions, at least at the start, but now have returned to the way they started. Just look at the left. Martin Crisp is down 13, Abner Acosta is minus 16, but everyone else inside the top 29 has gained positions so far. We're not talking about a few positions. We're talking 4, 5, or 6 plus.
It's the magic of survival. That's the tough thing about this track. One mistake and you're either firing off into the sea of gravel or you're firing yourself into the wall. This is how you make positions in this place when it's tough to pass. And the Christmas tree shows that. There's some drivers that have gone above the Call of Duty, though. It's not just everybody's up 3 spots because 3 people crashed. Brayton is up 11 spots. Diego Morales is up 7 spots. Lots of drivers making big progress.
I think making progress at the front is Vincent Trepanier in terms of holding off the charge of Karl Modhoff. And the 1 second buffer that they've got right now is important because it's not allowing that 948 to save some fuel and just manage the race pace right now, and instead it's forcing Modhoff to just push as hard as he can, getting as little draft effectively as iRacing will offer, and hoping that into the pit stop window he can maybe just pull the gap within another 10th or 2 and work from there. Now, there's no team name associated with Karl Modhoff in the series, but as far as I'm still aware, affiliated with Delta Sport Race Factory, which is a crew where we've seen a lot of strong drivers develop to be very, very quick people. The question you always have to ask is, what is it like working by yourself in a series? Yes, you might have technical support that you can rely on with other drivers, but it's not the same as having a proper teammate.
He used to have a couple of teammates. We used to see Connor Wagner with him in this series, but he's since focused on the GT4 side of things in the PRL. Kevin Sandiego, not a GT3 driver. He races in F3 in the PRL, and there's a whole host of other Delta Sport drivers and Race Factory drivers who we used to have a large contingent from, and it's just kind of fallen apart a little bit as I think they've really focused on GT4, but this is Karl Modhoff's bread and butter. He loves this car. We know Delta Sport loves this car, and in every event they compete in this Porsche 911 GT3. And yeah, I think he's got enough experience in this car that he doesn't necessarily need a teammate. It would help, but he's definitely holding on his own here. He's got some good setups.
At this sort of level as well, I do wonder how many people think that it's viable to just throw on a... Setup shops are great, and for many a year I competed in leagues and iRacing series with regular setup shop setups. But you know what started to change, Joey? Wasn't necessarily the speed or anything. It's more what I wanted from the car. And so that's when I had to go through and understand, okay, how can I get the rear to settle a little bit more if I'm in the Porsche, right? How do I get it to settle on traction and maybe not pogo around so much? In the BMW, it's okay, it's a front engine car. How do I make sure that I can get most of the braking done in a straight line? And then how am I going to turn the car? Am I doing that on throttle? Am I doing that by the trail braking release of the brake and the weight transfer there? All of these little things really influenced my understanding of setup, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is it influences how you understand you drive the car as well.
That's how you become a top-level sim racer. That's why I dropped out of engineering in college after 1 year, because it's a lot of stuff to balance. It's a very, very difficult task, and that's why you have some teams that have specific people to build the setups. They're not necessarily the drivers who are tasked with going fast. They're tasked with taking the data from those drivers who are going fast and crafting them to those drivers' abilities. Arnaud Genet here. I don't think Unit Sim Sports has their own setup builder. I think they're all doing work on, I don't know if it's purchase setups, but I have a feeling that all of them at Unit Sim Sports are probably running pretty similar setups to each other. And Arnaud always strong, always consistent, and still another solid job for him, top 10.
He's doing a very solid job, I think. Up 5, but directly behind him is Miguel Angel Fonseca. Yes, about 1.3 back, but that was just with a slight slip-up in that Porsche 911 GT3 machine. There's Fonseca, as well as Genet, both with glasses. Always curious to see what people do there. As a long-time glasses wearer, going on, oh wow, almost 20 years now. I switched over to contact lenses because of sim racing and virtual reality, something that has stuck with me ever since then. I know a lot of drivers use like the blue light and yellow light glasses to make their eyes get a little less strain over the long sim sessions that sometimes get run, but no such concerns for Vincent Trepanier at the very front in terms of being stressed. He punched in the fastest lap of the race last time by and gained that 1 bonus point to his name.
And I think he did that because he's wearing glasses. That's the extra 10th there. He's got the advantage.
Are you a glasses wearer?
No. I mean, I probably should be, maybe in the near future.
That's why you're not one of the world's best sim racers, Joe. You just need to wear glasses.
Exactly. I'm still within the limit of having good vision 90% of the time, but when I'm tired, I'm like, I could probably use something here.
Yeah, the problem with contact lenses, as I found out this past weekend, is if you wear them straight for 24 hours without going to sleep, I just want to be clear, I did not sleep, I was wearing them actively for 24 hours, your eyes get very, very dry.
I just don't like the idea of touching my eyeball. Like, I'm clumsy enough, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, you know what's worse though, Joey? Being on camera with the lights reflected onto the camera.
That is not great.
No, it's not. And so I effectively, I keep wearing contact lenses now, not because I race anymore. It's because I'm on broadcast, and I feel for my poor broadcast director who would have to do something to make up for that. So more and more drivers are peeling off to the lane, I feel like. We've had Jay Steffi come in the last time by, and I think now with 16.5 minutes to go, surely the window well and truly opened. But the gap at the front is what's opened up even more between Trepanier, Modolf, and Terrio, and it's as Jay Steffi comes out that it's going to open maybe the gap up to Modolf and Terrio, who have to go the long way around to get on past.
Did not work out there for Modolf whatsoever. That is a very, very unfortunate placement there. Arnaud Genet down pit lane as well. He's going for an earlier stop than anybody else. This could be good for him. He was in a little bit of a train, or at least holding up a little bit of a train of his own. He's going to get some track position here. And look up on the top screen as well. You saw Simon Terrio. Is he able to get by Steffi into the chicane? No, he's not. Steffi's not moving over just yet. Now he does.
So Genet followed in by Matt Scherf into the pit lane, and now Terrio 2 seconds effectively off the back of Karl Modolf, who lost about 4/10. He'd been gaining so well over the last couple of laps, but Vincent Trepanier turned up the wick, brought his pace back to a race-leading pace in many different ways. Not managing the tempo as much, and now we'll see where he comes out in terms of a pit cycle. Is he going to dive in this time by at the end of lap 17, or is he going to be able to work a little bit later, worry a little bit less about how much fuel's going into that car, brake lights on early, so you know he's staying on track.
It's a little bit like the Montreal pit entry as well, where it's a chicane normally, and then if you're coming into the pits, it's just full throttle into the brakes. I don't know when they designed that pit entry or why they designed the pit entry that way. I don't know if this was like a straight without a chicane in the olden days of Zolder, the Zolden days. But either way, it's dangerous.
Zolden days. Ugh. Can I leave again now? Can I get another week off?
Those were the good old days. Can't beat the Zolden days.
Okay, well, I tell you what, we'll move away from the very bad puns and move on to hopefully not bad pit stops. Juan Malagon leads Michael Terrafino, Fernando Yaquez, and Joshua Spears into the lane. They're not too worried about their pit crew messing up. The thing that they can't afford to do, though, is slide through their box and cost themselves 1 or 2 seconds that in a field as close as this cost them a couple of spots, as we've seen from one of the Porsches. I believe that was Fernando Yaquez.
Yeah, Yaquez missed the box a little bit too far forward with Terrafino in front of him. That is a critical second. Can't do that. Got to be on your marks, but it's so difficult, especially in a cramped pit lane like this where there are enough stalls for the cars, but they're very, very closely matched together. There's very little room. He tried to bring it in. Just got a little bit too far forward, and yeah, that's just in backing up there. That's a full second lost, basically.
And I think means that he has come out behind Terrafino. There we can pick them up off and out of the lane. And so indeed the Team Beef BMW does indeed cycle just in front. For a second I got worried because my timing screen's been telling me that people have been crashing when they come into pit lane. And I wasn't sure if Trepanier and Terrio had some sort of issue, but it is no such dramas. Into the pit lane they come with Beckham Jasir and Sean Dickinson following them in. And despite the fact that Karl Modolf's been pushing, 1 extra lap for the 948.
And we know Karl Modolf has been very, very good at fuel saving. He's had some of the shortest pit stops we've seen all season. Going 1 extra lap could be the thing that makes the difference. Trepanier does get it slowed down beautifully. Terrio as well. No sliding for them. No tires as well. They're not going up on the jacks. They're just going to take fuel here. Wait for the number for Trepanier. It's ticking up and up and up. 12.4. That seems kind of long.
I think it is a little long, all things considered, but as long as he has gained clean air on exit with Karl Modolf punching in a relatively clean in lap, it's going to work out. Not such a clean out lap, though, for Trepanier, who comes out just behind one of the Porsches. Oh, and Josh Spears, I think, almost spears himself off the road, and Trepignet up the inside, finally gets clear.
Yeah, I don't think Trepignet had to check up too much for that, but it was just a little bit. He was definitely scared there. You didn't know which direction Spears was going to go, whether he was going to the inside of the track, the outside, or somehow managing to save it like he did. But Trepignet was in the box for 12.4 seconds there. If you look deeper in the field, Michael Diaz, for example, 10.8 seconds in the box. Miguel Angel Fonseca, Simon Tirio, 11.8. It is entirely possible that Karl Modhoff could make up maybe even a full second in the pits here. Trepignet does not have this race won at this moment.
There's definitely no calm in either camp right now. Modhoff has been pushing for the second half of the stint, and it's now been pretty quick in lap, and now just waits to find his marks. His job is to hit them, trust his crew to put the fuel in, and we're not expecting tires based on the call from Advanced Motorsports. It's the same call for the 948. 5 seconds and counting, the fuel streams on in as Trepignet runs his way towards the line. It's going to be 11.6 for Modhoff, so it is a second quicker, but with Trepignet already up to speed and building himself into that opening corner, where are they going to be on the merge? There's a look on board with Trepignet, looking to the right for a moment, but clear. The mirror's not even that full. It's a full second between the top two.
Yeah, Modhoff brought a little bit of the gap down there, but not enough, or not as much as he needed. Still 1.2 seconds between them. He might be able to bring that down on track, might be able to close up to the back of Trepignet, but it is going to be very, very difficult to make that pass. And both of these guys have kind of elevated themselves over Simon Tirio, who didn't necessarily use more fuel than the likes of Modhoff. It was an identical pit stop time, but over the course of the in-lap and the out-lap, he has lost touch with the front two. Still going to be a podium for him, one of his best results of the season, but not enough fuel saved for him to keep in touch with the front two.
I think, like you say, the execution, the consistency is what sets apart Trepignet and Modhoff, and I think illustrates why they are 1 and 2 in the championship, tied on points halfway through, 4 top 5s apiece in 5 races, 2 pole positions. The only difference really with both of them grabbing a win apiece is the fact that Trepignet had 3 of the fastest laps and Karl Modhoff only had the 1. Neither has got penalty points so far this season. Despite the level that we've had, they have stayed out of trouble. They've kept their noses clean, and now with these final 5 races left to run, it comes down to the pressure you'd have to imagine between the two. Who's going to crack? Who's going to be able to rise to the occasion?
I really want to see a championship finale with these two tied in the points. I think that would be very, very exciting. We've had some close championship finales in the past. Remember last season we were very, very close to the top of the sheet between Acosta and Francis Castillo-Romero and Juan Malagon. I have a feeling we're going to see another incredible championship finale in a couple of weeks' time between these two, assuming they can stay out of trouble. There's always the possibility of things going wrong. Remember week 1, the thing that has kept the rest of the field in touch with Trepignet and Modhoff. Trepignet got punted by Boris Ovando. Modhoff ran out of fuel. It was a terrible start to the season for these two. They've since come back, but that could happen again. They could have even more bad luck at the craziness that's coming up next week at Road Atlanta, or at Le Mans for that matter.
Cycle through the field and see if we can catch up with a couple of the battles that we've got. Michael Diaz runs just in front of Fernando Yaquez's teammate in the Seabauer Racing team, number 6. It's Juan Malagon, another one of our previous championship contenders, but in what has been a bit of a change-up in the running order for this season, with so many strong names flocking back in. For Malagon and for Abner Acosta as well, it's definitely not been an easy season by any means. These two not fighting too much just yet. It's like contrast to Faris Nasser, who's up the inside of Kevin Simpson, fortunately without any contact.
Very luckily there. And also on the topic of CRT, before we leave them, Michael Diaz is actually a member, or at least he was a member of the Seabau Sim Racing team in another series at one point. So he's got some rivalry there with the current CRT drivers, but Crisp and Nasser side by side through the final quarter. Karl Modhoff showed us that you could make the outside work through there. It is possible, and Martin Crisp trying to live up to that. Barely has a nose to the inside of Faros Nasser into the chicane. Nasser slides it. Crisp gets through.
Nice and tidy. That brand new paint scheme for Martin Crisp clearly bringing him some extra speed. Can Kwok Nin be the next to go around the outside of Faris Nasser into turn number 1. Not really a defense offered there, if we're being honest, and the driver racing in virtual reality cycles his way on through.
Good there move. He is. There he is. He's matching the car this week, so well done, Kwok.
You know what? I've now got another thing to look at with drivers. Never even considered that.
I think Ted was matching his car because he's got the black car. I think he was wearing a black shirt, but we only see that sort of color coordination when people are wearing team shirts.
Why don't we go through the field and see if we can check in on this? Because this is clearly, with not much going on at the front and things settling down through the field, clearly the most important thing that we can do in the world. We'll start with Ted Lowendick. Black and blue?
It's close to black. It's like a navy blue. I don't know what the shirt says. I mean, it says start your engines.
The funny thing is that Ted Lowendick has got a shirt printed, which has got that exact thing that's on the side of the car. He's just not wearing it today.
Yeah, I do believe last night he was at some sort of Major League Soccer event, I think, or whatever, club soccer at in Columbus, Ohio, whatever they have going there. So he's on a high of attending a sporting event. I don't know what that has to do with this, but it's something to get your sporting moods on for the night. Nick McLaughlin, a little bit less festive. He's just coming off of being on vacation, back in the swing of things over the past couple of weeks.
Nice.
He's had some bad luck, driving a very damaged Ferrari. You might see that in the streets of Miami or something after it's been heavily crashed, but still 25th, not bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't seem like that's the way Ferrari would sell it. You might get in trouble if you do not fix that one up. Caven Norris, that's definitely not matching. I think we can both agree on that. Yellow, purple, blackish unit sim sport car, grey t-shirt.
Background matches at least.
The LED lighting does help, yeah. He's got that going for him, but I think outside of that, there's some work to be done. Why don't we take a look at, we're going to have to do this 2-in-1, I believe, because we can do it with Miguel Angel Fonseca as well as with Arnaud Genet at the very same time, since I think they're fighting somewhat close to one another. There's a unit sim sport driver. There's, I forget the new team name for Miguel Angel Fonseca, but that's not very matching.
The ceiling matches Miguel's car, so that's something. I don't remember the team name for Miguel either. I don't even know if he's a single driver, whatever I'm trying to think of, independent driver. But as I speak right now, I'm distracting you from the fact that I'm scrolling down the results.
There we go.
He competes for Inugami iRacing right now, which I believe is just his own team.
That is definitely new, by the way. Definitely new from when I was last here 2 weeks ago.
It might be, because well, I think it's his own team, so I don't think he's not competing with it. It's just for the sake of having a team, I think.
Yes, no, but I just remember seeing that on the grid and going, that's new. Cool.
I don't know if that's like a reference to what's on the side of his car, because I know he runs like video game references and anime references.
That is a Death Note. Yeah, that's a Death Note thing. I don't know if the team name is, but I can tell you the livery is Death. There is a Maradness logo on the side of the car, isn't there? And a butt kicker logo. So he's at least put, and an Advanced Sim Racing. He's put the league sponsors onto that car, so he's made an effort.
Inugami is a spiritual possession by the spirit of a dog in Japanese mythology, apparently. So I don't know if that has anything to do with Death Note, but...
So is he telling us that he's possessed by a dog? Is he trying to give us a warning that we need to help him?
He's got the dog in him.
Or he's got the dog in him. That's not bad.
He might.
Vincent Trepanier will be the final driver that we can look at in terms of the shirt matching the car. It matched the livery they started the season off with.
Yeah, but I like this new one. I like the stealth black, but that was just kind of a placeholder, and now we've got the Jazz Cup colors, and I'm always a fan of that. That purple and teal, that's kind of ASR's corporate colors. If you go to their website, it's all decked out in that. It's very, very bright. I'm a fan of this car. I like the stealth black, but I like the Jazz Cup car more.
I agree. Martin Crisp, by the way, might have my new favorite livery in the field. So it just looks good.
It does. It's stained in a way. It's got like fragments. I love me some geometrics. I always love a monochrome livery as well, just one color with all the logos in one color as well. But I'm a fan. With no sponsors on it, do a little bit of an art car thing. It is indeed crisp.
Oh yes, it is crisp. Is this a SimCity racing car though? That's the question.
No, I think this is a Martin Crisp car.
So it's a Martin Crisp special. I
believe so.
Because the SimCity racing cars are good looking as well, right? So, as I think that was Corey Hoken. Oh, yep, the TR.
I didn't even see that. I just saw Martin Crisp sending it about 20 feet in the air. But Corey Hocken, he's making his own highlight reel.
I just saw the flash on my timing screen. To be fair, more than anything. Always keep an eye on your timing screens, except when they give you wrong information. In which case, don't. Let's see if we can pick up what happened here. You get the sense it's probably going to be curb related, and so yes, got it wrong over the first one. That set him up to be even wronger on the second one, and then boom, bash, bosh, front engine car into the wall.
The old double kill there, and it's interesting that we saw the rear end of the car lifted up over the curb instead of the front end. Look at that! It doesn't lift up the front end at all. It lifts up the rear end. I don't know if that's because of the front engine, but it's weird.
That seems like relatively logical physics, right?
Well, you see, Arjuna, I got a C- in physics the first time around, and only passed physics the second time around because it was online, so I couldn't tell you.
Yes, but that's the thing. Physics is all an illusion, really, right? How do we know that physics is how we interpret it?
I mean, that's a good question. That's a question for some of those
smarter people than us.
Yeah, those physicists over there. I should go back and talk to them. I could learn some things.
There was, by the way, a Corey supporter in our chat. He had put #GoCorey. The next message I see in the chat, no, that's not a commentator's curse. That's a fan curse, I've decided.
Yeah, that's a Suli 153 curse.
Yes, no, unfortunate as well for Corey after what was looking like a pretty strong day. I think we're about to see the white flag in hand because with 1:25 to go, Trepanier is going to get to the line, and indeed, it's another 2 and a bit miles for Trepanier to run, and look at that, another fastest lap. It's going to be a 1:27.169, almost half a second clear of Modov on the penultimate lap of the race.
You can never forget that the fastest guy in the PRL right now, in his normal, everyday life, before he comes into these leagues and does his racing at night, he's a bus driver on the regular old city streets of French Canada. I wonder if his passengers are, relieved by that information, or they're scared by that information. I don't know.
Well, I guess the good thing is he's at least calm enough that he can drive the bus without scaring any of his passengers.
You know you're going to get there on time.
You know you're going to get there on time, hopefully in one piece as well. And it's going to be another victory for Vincent Trepanier. How far does he have to go to catch up to the likes of Nick McLaughlin in the chart? It's only 3 more wins, so we'll take one step closer today. A long way further to get to Karl Modov.
Yeah, in 1 second's time, or in 20 seconds time rather, he will match Nick McLaughlin on wins. But then he has 10 wins to go to catch Karl. So
that's GT3 wins, to be clear. I was meaning...
That is true. Yes. That is true. He's making progress, though. He's on the run.
I should not maybe have counted the couple of non-GT3 wins that Nick McLaughlin had. What a day it's been, by the way, for pole position sitters. Able to dominate at the front. We know that Zolder's a tough place to pass, but Vincent Trepanier took it to another level. From flag to flag, Advanced Motorsports rise their way to the top, and Vincent Trepanier will take the championship lead as we begin the back half of the campaign. Karl Modov did everything that he could, but unfortunately, it was in vain. The 948 settles for second.
Still a solid day for Simon Thiriot as well. Podium for him, one of his best results of the season. Couldn't quite stick with his teammate, make it a 1-2, but still a great run for him, and he'll be looking to Road Atlanta next week to see if he can get one step further, and then maybe even one step further and beat his teammate Vincent.
Yeah, looking forward to our trip to Road Atlanta next week, but with almost 40 GT3 machines, you know it's going to be a tough one. Some drag races to the line. Martin Crisp was, 2/10 off the back of Kevin Simpson come the end of 28 laps of racing. I think Zolder was a tricky one for plenty, but ultimately it's one of those challenges that once you figure it out, the next time that you come back here, hopefully, you won't need as many laps of racing in order to get back up to speed and to get comfortable with the track and its surroundings. Still a couple more to come to the line. We'll wait for Jay Steffi, for Marc-Andre Desjardins, and then Ted Lowendick to be the final driver to wrap this race up. Ted Lowendick with a 24-second trip down pit lane. Did he get a drive-through penalty at some point?
That sounds like a realistic possibility there. The incident points, it's hard to stack up incident points here because there's no asphalt runoff, but I think Ted may have made some contact, may have had a few trips through the gravel, and he did indeed have to serve a drive-through, but he'll be looking forward to tomorrow night in the Xfinity Fixed Series, where he's proven evidently to be a very, very strong driver on the oval. So look for him to maybe make a full-time switch in the near future.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see, of course, as we head to the end of the season, what drivers are feeling like moving into 2023 Season 4 sign-ups. not far away from opening either for Precision Racing League members, so of course it's that time of the year where you should always stay involved with the community. Here's a look at the results for Vincent Trepanier. A 16th win in the GT3 series, ties himself with Nick McLaughlin, but as Joey said, still 10 more to go before he can match Carl Modoff in GT3 wins, add another 6 before he'll match him in overall wins as well. Simon Terrio makes up the rest of the podium, just behind Modoff with Beckham Jasir, Sean Dickinson, Juan Malagon, Michael Diaz, Nathan Bartley, Miguel Angel Fonseca, and then Arnaud Genet, the rest of the top 10, with the majority of those drivers making themselves up a couple of positions courtesy of the Mayhem. Diego Morales in 11th in front of Fernando Yaquez with Michael Terrafino, Joshua Spears, Kevin Norris, Kevin Simpson, Martin Crisp, and then Kwoknin and Dominic Olivier, as well as Corey Hokin making it into your top 20. For Martin Crisp drops down 10 positions, Dominic Olivier drops down 14 positions. Slight frustrations, I'm sure, for the two of them. 21st for Faris Nasser, 22nd to Matt Scherf in the Vulture Motorsports number 43, while Ryan Pucktel is just behind in 23rd. Nick McLaughlin, the best of the Nick and Ted Excellent Adventure Machines, gets in front of Alexander Breton by 0.6 of a second. And Nikos Sanidakis, after being involved in some dramas in qualifying, less dramas in the race, 26th for him. Philip Magnon, the last car within 1 minute of your leader with Justin Delano, Noah Anderson, and then Jay Steffi bookending the top 30. But still on the lead lap, as were Marc-Andre Deschardins, as well as Ted Lowendick. Joseph Carnes, Abner Acosta, Ryan O'Connor, and then Alessandro Torchio make up the rest of the 36-car contingent that saw the green flag. But it wasn't just the win that went to Vincent Trepanier, fastest lap as well, and crucially, bonus points in the championship in a season where they came in tied halfway through the campaign. Let's not dawdle any longer, though. Joey Tebbins getting ready to chat with our race winner, Vincent Trepanier.
Indeed I am. Yet another win for you this season, Vincent. Zolder, it's not a track we see very often, but you seem to have this place figured out. Do you have a ton of experience here? Did you feel comfortable tonight?
No, seriously, it was my second race on Zolder. I raced on this track 2 years ago in the other league. So no, I didn't do official last week. So it was my second race in the. Yep, I'm happy with the win, guys.
So I've always been curious about this. We know you're a bus driver in the real world before you come onto the sim every night. Do you transfer anything from this back to the bus, or bring anything from the bus into here?
It's the same thing in the real, because we on the right side we have the throttle pedal on the right side, and and on the left side we have the brake pedal. So no, it's very different because well, what can I say? Our bus is a very big monster, and Porsche is two different things.
I do need to come up to your city though, Vincent, because I'm going to have to ride on your bus at some point. So one day that'll happen. But congrats on the win, and maybe I'll see you on the bus a little bit later.
If you come in by bus, I will be a soft driver, smooth driver.
Nice. That's what we want.
Can I thank somebody, guys?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. I want to thank all my teammates in the Advanced Sim Racing. Simon Thériault, Guillaume Lévesque, Andrew Caron, and Phil Bouchard. All the guys, they work on the setup for the race. I want to thank RaceSpot for the broadcast and the PRL for the organization. Thank you, guys.
Always a pleasure. Vincent Trepanier coming home with the win, and good to know about all those people who come in to make those setups for that team. They're so successful. We got our second place finisher as well here. Carl Modoff coming home second here at Zolder. That was a tough day, a lot of fuel saving, the track where it's very difficult to pass. What more did you need to get ahead of Vincent?
Hey guys, it was a tough race. Once I got around Simon, I thought I had really good pace, and I did a race yesterday where I felt like tire fall off wasn't bad, and I was able to keep running fast laps, but I was just kind of all over the place, you know. Props to Vincent, he ran very consistently and quick. There's some laps I'd catch him, and then I'd make a mistake, you know, and lose a couple tenths, and he was just able to run lap after lap and keep kind of slowly growing that gap here and there. So props to him. What I needed tonight was just probably to drive better. You know, I'll definitely take a P2 going for the championship, but you know, sometimes when you don't drive your best, it can be a little frustrating.
Arjuna mentioned something about this earlier. We noticed in this battle, you were sandwiched between two teammates from the same team, but you, in this series at least, you're racing on your own. You've got no teammates in this very series. Has that hurt you at all? Has that helped you at all, racing solo?
I don't know. I don't know if there's too many pros or cons. I mean, you don't have somebody to help you to kind of develop a setup. So, I'm just running basically VRS setups. So I don't know if I'm losing much there or not. I did think about it on the start, knowing that Simon was starting P3, or P3, and having Vincent in front of me. I thought that he could probably be a little bit aggressive on the start, so I was kind of wary of that. But other than teammates kind of working together for track position, I don't know if it makes too big of a difference, with the availability of setups and stuff.
Well, it's still going to be close in the championship, Carl. I think it's going to be 2 points separating you guys coming into next week, and we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Thanks for everything.
Always a pleasure. Carl Modoff Arjuna coming home in second. Can't be too unhappy with that, though. Still very, very close in the championship, and it's been on and off between him and Trepnier every single week. You never know who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, and I think we are going to be in for maybe one of the most fun championship fights we could look forward to, given how close those two seem to be matched. Here's where we go next. Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Plenty of the drivers will love it as we head there on August the 8th. It's going to be fast, it's going to be flowing, and you've got some of these elevation changes that are deceptively tricky in these big and weighty GT3 machines.
If you thought Zolder was tough to keep it on the track, Road Atlanta is going to be a whole nother game. It's so old school, it's so high speed. You see the curb in the helicopter shot here that we're seeing. You ride that a little bit wrong, you get a little bit too far to the left, and you sort of Tony Hawk ollie over the top of that curb. There's no saving that. It is such a tricky track, but when you nail it, it is so satisfying, and that's why it's one of the best in the country, and I think everybody's going to be looking forward to that on track and evidently up here in the booth.
Of course, it's the home of the Petit Le Mans, the final round of the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup, but of course is going to be midway through our season, and of course after that just 3 rounds to go. Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and the historic layout, which I think will put a smile on at least my face, Circuit de la Sarthe, we head to Le Mans, and for a blast through the Mulsanne, and then of course Phillip Island to round things off, and hopefully with a championship battle still left to be determined. It is time to bid you farewell, though, after our doubleheader in Belgium. It was an intriguing trip, to say the very least. Last week at Spa, plenty of drama for the drivers to contend with. This week, a little bit less chaotic, a little bit less frenzied, but the same level of championship excitement at a track where it is difficult to pass. We'll make our way next week back over to the US and to head into that final stage of the championship showdown. But for now, we bid you farewell. For the team at RaceSpot, for Joey Tebben alongside myself, Arjuna Kanki Party, thank you so much for joining us for the GT3 doubleheader. Precision Racing League action rumbles on RaceSpotTV, but until we make our way into Georgia, we'll see you for now from the Circuit Zolder, the second track in Belgium.